Out on his boat ever since the disaster. He's worried that his way of life no longer has a future.
Many are selling their boats and trying to go abroad, and many people are fed up. In fact, my son himself, he's working with me at the moment. He's also a fisherman, but he's also considering leaving the country. It's already been several years, you know. If we were going to get justice, we would have had it by now.
This episode of Assignment was presented by me, Liana Hosea. The producer was Alex Last. The local producer was Saraj Pathirana.
That was Assignment from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho, and this is CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio. Thanks for joining us this morning. It is Thursday, July the 3rd, and it's 16 degrees right now. It's going to be hot and very, very muggy today in Winnipeg as we head for a daytime high of 33 degrees. That's without the Humidex. So with the Humidex, it's going to feel like 36. We're on air with you till 8:37 with the morning show. Thanks for making time. As we mentioned, we know mornings are busy. Let's say good morning to the team. Sierra Sanders is here. Hello, Sierra. Repping all of us because I forgot to wear my Bomber jersey for rep the game tonight, but she's got hers on. You can see that if you're watching our YouTube stream. Sierra directs the show and will be on air covering the commute. The producer and director and switcher of our YouTube stream is Mr. Brad Lillies. He's in the control room there. Good morning, Brad. And also Abby Adiemi's in the control room this morning getting ready. Abby's our lead technician on the show and covers weather. Good morning, Abby. Okay, let's get started. We always begin the day here on CBC with local news from Manitoba. So here's Heather Wells from our news center.
Good morning. Well, you mentioned it, Marcy, and that kind of heat means there is a heat warning in effect for southern Manitoba today as a hot, humid air mass moves in, bringing highs in the low 30s, humidex between 35 and 40 right across the southern part of the province. Relief is expected by Saturday, but today and tomorrow are expected to be the most humid days of summer so far. The chief of a Northern First Nation says he was disgusted to see hundreds of thousands of dollars paid out to a former Manitoba Hydro CEO. Now, earlier this week, we told you about Jay Graywall receiving $880,000 last year, despite being dismissed just 6 weeks into 2024. We're going to hear from Pimachikamak Chief David Monias in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
This morning on the program in the first hour, we're going to start talking about Fringe Festival. It kicks off in just a few weeks. And one Winnipeg comedian is taking to the stage to, well, overshare. We're going to hear more about what that means. Also, if you're looking for love, but you find yourself frustrated with dating apps, you are not alone. And there's a change in how people are going to be dating. And we'll hear more about that. Is the death of the app on the way? Maybe not quite, but discussion in the first hour. And a little bit later in the show, we have a serious two-part interview. What is it really like to pursue justice after being a victim of a sexual assault? One Manitoba woman is sharing her story this morning. Stay tuned. Right now, it's time for World Report.
Today on Q.
The only thing I love in life as much as lunch or dinner is breakfast.
Phil Rosenthal created one of the most successful sitcoms of all time, Everybody Loves Raymond. But after it ended, it took him nearly a decade to launch his next dream project, his food and travel show that's now in its 8th season. Phil Rosenthal will be here to tell you all about it.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. It has been a sleepless night for many politicians in the U.S. Capitol. Debate on U.S. President Donald Trump's tax and spending bill is keeping the House of Representatives in session. The bill narrowly passed the Senate earlier this week. Today's expected vote will determine if it gets pushed through. Our Katie Nicholson is watching from Washington. Katie, where do things stand?
It's been another marathon session on Capitol Hill, but Speaker Mike Johnson may be on the brink of fulfilling a very tall order, delivering Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. The small group of Republican holdouts, there were 5 representatives, including members of the Freedom Caucus. So Speaker Johnson spoke briefly with Fox's Sean Hannity last night.
We were tying up some loose ends. It's taken a little while to go through the changes, to have everybody fully process that, and that's part of the process. So no huge pressure here. We're allowing these conversations to continue.
Now, through the night, the president expressed his frustration on social media, posting, "What are the Republicans waiting for? What are you trying to prove?" Multiple question marks in all caps. MAGA is not happy and it's costing you votes. So Johnson appears to believe that now they have the votes and they can really only afford 3 defections from the party. Their efforts to woo those vocal critics going to be put to the test with the final vote. But first, there is procedure. There was debate and the House leaders get to speak. And now House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, he started speaking around 5 a.m. He may take a long time to delay the actual vote.
This bill is supposed to continue the Trump administration's tax cuts for the most wealthy from 2017, increase funds for border security and the Pentagon, but it's also being heavily criticized for what it cuts. Tell us more.
It does take deep bites from the social safety net, Medicaid and food security programs, in addition to driving up the national debt by an estimated $3.3 trillion over 10 years. And that is a message House Democrats have been hammering over the last 24 hours on the floor. Here's Hakeem Jeffries again.
This disgusting abomination, the GOP tax scam that guts Medicaid, rips food from the mouths of children, seniors, and veterans, and rewards billionaires with massive tax breaks.
Now, if this bill clears the last hurdle, it moves to Donald Trump's desk. He will get to sign it into law as he wanted by July 4th. But many in his party may soon face a reckoning. There are estimates 12 million Americans or more may lose health coverage, and this could impact rural health care, issues that may haunt Republicans in the midterms.
Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Katie Nicholson reporting from Washington. In just under 2 hours, we will get a clearer picture of how much trade has suffered under U.S. tariffs. In April, exports plunged more than 10%. Now, Statistics Canada is about to release the trade numbers for May. The CBC's senior business correspondent, Peter Armstrong, has more on what to watch.
In a lot of ways, Canada's economy has held up better than many had expected. GDP contracted in April, but it only shrank 0.1%. And that was at the peak of the tariffs, the trade war, and all the uncertainty. Through this, tracking exports has been difficult, in large part because there's an awful lot of noise in the data. We knew businesses on both sides of the border scrambled to get products across the border before tariffs kicked in, so there was a surge in exports in February and March. That was bound to lead to a significant drop-off in April. The question is, what happened in May and June? Today, Statistics Canada will give us a big piece of that puzzle. Did exports continue to lag? StatCan already told us it believes the economy probably shrank in May. And where was that weakness coming from? Manufacturing and exports. So, safe to assume exports continued to fall in May. We'll see shortly just how steep that fall looks on paper. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
Police in Spain say Premier League soccer player Diogo Jota has died in a car accident. He and his brother were both found dead after their vehicle went off the road near Zamora in western Spain. No other vehicles were involved in the accident. Police are investigating the cause. Jota played for Liverpool FC. He also helped Portugal's national team win the Nations League last month. Diogo Jota was 28 years old. The mother of a 3-year-old girl who disappeared near the Ontario-Quebec border appears in court today. The child was found alive. The mother has been charged with child abandonment. And today is her bail hearing. Jayla Bernstein has the story.
Just over 2 weeks ago, a massive multi-day search for a missing girl ended with the best case scenario. The 3-year-old girl found alive in a ditch. She was dehydrated and alone, but okay. CBC is not naming the girl or her mother because of a publication ban by the courts. Today, the mother is expected to appear in court for her bail hearing. She's charged with child abandonment. According to Radio-Canada sources, she seemed confused during police questioning. Her lawyer says she's not well, though for now they've not requested a psychological evaluation. This all started when the mother ran panicked into a souvenir store on a highway near the Quebec-Ontario border. Employees said she was saying she'd lost her 3-year-old daughter and couldn't remember what happened. In eastern Ontario, officers used a drone to spot the girl alive. She was along a highway near farmland about 50 kilometers from the Quebec border. She told police she was waiting there for her mommy. Officers said they believe she spent the entire time outside on her own. If her mother is found guilty of child abandonment, she could face a maximum sentence of 5 years. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Montreal.
People in Yukon are getting some answers about exactly what happened at the Eagle Gold Mine last year. There was a landslide. It was catastrophic for the environment and forced the facility to close. Now an independent review has released its report. The CBC's Gabrielle Plonka has details.
The Eagle Gold Mine near Mayo, Yukon, had a lot of issues. Its heap leaching facility, which uses cyanide to extract gold, wasn't draining properly. The mining company was using poor quality ore and had a malfunctioning separator. All of those problems and others contributed to the catastrophic failure in June 2024, according to newly published findings from an independent review board. John Stryker is the Yukon's Minister of Mines. He says his government is looking at the findings.
Public confidence is lost quickly and built slowly. So I think that we have to continue that hard work.
There are more than 50 recommendations, some of them geared towards government and others towards the mining industry.
That it isn't just the Yukon that's looking at this, right? The whole mining industry is looking at it, trying to understand. Everyone wants to make sure mining is done safely.
The Eagle Mine is currently in receivership and up for sale. Don Roberts leads a local citizen advocacy group. It circulated a petition earlier this year to ban open-pad heap leaching in the Yukon. He says right now public opinion on mining is low, and it's going to take a major industry shift to change that.
They've got to have everything in place, and even the financial burden has to be in place as well. Otherwise, we're going to get stuck with other mines, which are even going to be larger.
Roberts says he's tired of seeing taxpayers and the environment pay for failed mines. Gabrielle Plonka, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Sean Diddy Combs' trial may have wrapped, but the hip-hop mogul will remain behind bars. Combs yesterday was convicted on just 2 of the 5 charges against him and was denied bail. As Jennifer Yoon tells us, the outcome of the trial is still the talk of the town in Manhattan.
I think the prosecution presented a good case, but I also
out on the streets of New York, it seems like everybody has an opinion about the verdict in the criminal case against Sean Diddy Combs.
He definitely should do some time, in my opinion, just given the severity of everything. Always felt like they had, a lot of bogus charges against him. You can't like him as a person personally, so you do have to separate the two.
For almost 2 months, the case and the cameras and the influencers and the spectators it drew in took over a city block outside the court building in Lower Manhattan. Inside, the music mogul was found guilty of 2 prostitution-related charges, but he was acquitted of the most serious charges.
So today's a great day. Today is a victory of all victories for Sean Combs and our legal team.
Mark Agnifilo, who defended Combs, called it a win, but the prosecution was able to convince the court to deny a $1 million bail request. Now all that rests is for the judge to decide how long Sean Diddy Combs will spend behind bars. He's facing a maximum of 20 years in jail. The defense, prosecution, and the judge have agreed to begin the sentencing process next week. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, New York.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, we're in for a steamer today across southern Manitoba. Very serious heat. Thanks for joining us this Thursday morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Welcome to Information Radio on CBC. This is your morning show, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube. And this hour on it, we're going to talk about Fringe Fest. Kicks off in a couple of weeks. We're going to meet one of the performers, and that's going to be a bit of a theme over the next few weeks as we really get into the festival. So many people in town for it, too. Also, we're going to talk about the future of dating apps. Some dating app companies are cutting their workforces and attempting to readjust business models as users are growing frustrated. We're going to hear more about why. And we'll hear about a brand new report that is looking specifically at the problem of pretendians in academia. So stay tuned. That conversation's coming up at about 10 to 7 to build on some of what we've heard on World Report. In a moment, local news headlines. And with those, let's go live to our CBC Manitoba News Centre and Heather Wells. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Well, Winnipeg's community centres could get an extra $250,000 a year to help hire staff. The city proposes an annual wage subsidy, which it hopes will boost flagging volunteer numbers. Nearly half as many people are offering their time now compared to before COVID. That plan goes for a vote at Executive Policy Committee next week. And Winnipeg's next general election is still 15 months away, but Scott Gillingham isn't creating any drama about his re-election plan. Gillingham says he does plan to run in 2026 for a second term as mayor of Winnipeg. We'll hear more on those stories and others coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Okay, not this year. I know it's not this year, but it's
We're
so
not
funny.
voting this year.
I
no.
heard that story and I was like, another election?
Yeah,
What?
please, no.
Hang on a minute. No, next calendar year. Getting ahead of it. It's interesting because our last mayor, Brian Bowman, also got ahead of it. Remember when he said he wasn't going to run? He told us all like a year ahead as well.
Yeah.
So seems to be a civic thing. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells from our news department. I want to mention something briefly before we turn to weather and the commute. Wow. Do we have a lot of comments about transit? And a lot of comments about how transit has been really challenging for these changes. So I'd like to invite calls this morning because I'd love to hear you explain what's going on for you out there. So transit for you has been, the changes have been an improvement or not, or you think that something should be changed with this new system, please call us 204-788-3205. Brad's got it up there if you're watching YouTube. 204-788-3205. 05. All right, let's get into this really hot weather with Abby Adiemi. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. If you're going to be commuting today and spending time at those bus stops, it's going to be hot and humid. We feel that air already coming towards the southern part and some part of the north. The humidity is going to be feeling close to 36 this afternoon. Hence, we have this heat warning for much of southern Manitoba from Winnipeg into Brandon, Gimli communities near the U.S. border. I'm talking about Morden, Winkler, Altoona, Morris, and even all the way to Arborg, Fisher River, Turtle Mountain. We are going to be seeing temperatures close to 36. The humidity is going to be feeling close to 36 degrees today. However, we should see cooler air move in by Friday, but for today, it's going to be pretty hot. So remember to stay hydrated and keep cool. Just check on those that may be needing extra help. In Winnipeg at this time, 16 degrees. We're seeing the sun already break through those cloudy conditions. It's going to clear more as we get into the morning. Then we'll see a mix of sun and clouds. Some local smoke spotted here and there this morning. It will be a hot day for Winnipeg. We will be getting to 33 degrees. It's going to feel warmer than that. The humidity for Winnipeg is going to be around 36. The winds will come from the southeast. Across the south, we're seeing temperatures around 15, 16 degrees already. And the humidity as well as similar to Winnipeg, close to 35, 36 degrees. Up north at the powerful influence times in Churchill, we're seeing 14 and 18 degrees at this time, and light rain falling in Churchill. But to sum it all up, the south will be warming up. It's going to feel like 35 degrees today.
Yeah, very hot. Let's get into the morning commute. Thank you, Abby. Sarah Sanders has popped in here. Good morning.
Good morning. Things are moving along right now as we get the show started and the morning started. But if that is not the case, whether you are here in the city or you are out on the highways, feel free to give me a call on the commuter line if something is slowing you down out there. 204-788-3093.
Well, I know it's summer when my inbox starts filling up with performers from the Fringe who are in town talking.
When I recognized what was going on, I imagine that there was a moment for you as well when you recognized that.
Yeah, so my moment wasn't really until I was 28 because I thought I had anxiety. Same thing, like my brain is like there are 8 different TVs on all the time and it's really exciting and fun and bouncy, but it's also really hard to get things done. So I had started seeing a new therapist and she noticed that I couldn't tell a story in a straight line, which is a good thing for comedy, right?
Yeah.
And she said, do you think it could be ADHD? And I was like, oh, everyone's getting diagnosed. It's probably not. I have anxiety. That's what it is.
What was it about that potential that made you think, no, that's not a thing. Can't be a thing.
Because I thought it was just for bouncy, annoying boys, to be completely honest. Like that's, and that's typically who would get diagnosed when they were in school because they'd be really annoying for their teacher, respectfully, of course, very annoying. But then if it's more the inattentive type, it goes misdiagnosed, especially in women. So I had a couple family members also get diagnosed with ADHD around that time, and I thought, okay, well, I better go take the test.
And then TikTok showed up.
Yeah, TikTok was telling me all the time that I had ADHD, and I was like, that's just being alive. Everyone forgets everything, but it's not for some people.
You passed the test with flying colors, didn't
you? With flying colors. My doctor was like, whoa, you've got it for sure.
And did it change the way you associated ADHD with, from no way could this be me, I'm not a bouncy boy, to okay, I guess the doctor says so and the list says so and I've passed it with flying colors? Did it change the way you associated ADHD with yourself?
Absolutely. And it's kind of It's opened this door to a lot of self-acceptance. If I forget something, I still beat myself up a little bit, but not quite as hard as I used to, because it's like, okay, my brain is different than everybody else's for whatever reason. And it's not my own fault. And it has a lot of strengths, but it also has a lot of challenges, and I'm hoping to ride that line in my show.
And so you enter, you get to overshare. Why call the show Overshare? I think I can imagine why, but why did you call it Overshare?
I thought it was a snappy title, and it's also something I do. As soon as I meet someone, I don't always want to, but I'll just start telling my life story, and then it's out there and it's too late to rein it back in.
Yeah.
And that's also apparently a really common symptom. So the first iteration of this show, I've always known I wanted to do a show called Overshare. I just didn't know it was going to be about ADHD in its first kind of appearance. But I'm a big oversharer, and I thought, it's catchy, it's fun. It'll keep the right people away from the show. If you don't want to be overshared too, don't come.
How did you decide what stories to include?
Oh, that's been really tough. So the first version of the show that I wrote was basically expanding on a list of kind of insane things I did before I knew I had ADHD. So
and these were all listed in your journal when you were a kid, right?
So this is before that.
So before, okay.
Yeah. So I thought just as an adult, I did kickboxing, I did yoga, I did stand-up comedy, and that has become a little bit of a career now. But that was the first version. And my mom kept this big Tupperware container of all these journals and all these stories I wrote from when I was a kid. So I have stuff from when I was like 4 talking about the same kind of feelings I have now. I have a journal, it's like specifically from when I was 9, where I would write, "Dear Diary, my name is Kristen. I live in Winnipeg. I am just like other girls, except not quite." So I always knew something was a little different with me. And it's honestly pretty emotional to go through and to revisit, but it's also hilarious because kids are really funny and really brutally honest.
An ADHD diagnosis is pretty serious.
It is.
Can also be pretty life-changing for some folks. Where does all of that land for you? Where on the spectrum does that land for you? Or is it everywhere?
It's a bit everywhere. I probably haven't completely processed the grief that comes with, this is something I didn't know about myself. And I'm 30. I'm younger than the average age that women get diagnosed. The average age for women is 37 and the average age for boys is 7. So it's gone very, very under the radar with women. But the first time I took medication for the ADHD, it's not like an antidepressant where it takes a couple weeks to work. It works immediately. And I couldn't believe how quiet my mind was. And it was like emotional. I'm like, my voice is a little shaky right now. It was incredible. There
was clarity, wasn't there?
There was clarity. And like, I have a college diploma, but I dropped out of university because it was too boring for me. And it's not because I'm not smart enough. It was just that I wasn't suited to being in a classroom in that way, and if you come to the show, you'll hear more about this. I've been fired a few times, at least, one of those times was my fault. I'm going to own that, but not every time, and it's just like, if I knew this sooner, it could have been different. It's really that feeling, but it's also relief because I am still relatively young, 30's the new 20, I think that's what they're saying.
I'm about 40, so I don't know what the saying
40's
is.
40's the new 30.
Yes.
Every, age is a number. Everything's made up and the points don't matter, to borrow from Whose Line Is It Anyway? But it was definitely a huge eye-opener. Yeah.
What are you hoping people will take from your 30-minute show?
I'm really hoping that they have a little bit more empathy, especially the fringe audience tends to skew a little bit older. And if they know younger people in their life who are getting diagnosed and they're kind of rolling their eyes, I hope that they can come to it with a little bit more empathy after the show. I hope that people who have ADHD feel seen in some ways. Everyone's experience is different. And I hope that people like it, because if it flops, I will never perform again. I'm kidding. I'm mostly kidding.
She's so funny. If you haven't seen her in person, I bet this show's going to be fantastic. This is Kristen Einarson in conversation with CBC's Faith Fundel. She is a comedian. She's the creator of Oversharer, about her own journey with ADHD. And you can check it out at the Winnipeg Fringe Festival, which is coming up soon, July 17th to the 26th.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
Well, my next guest just popped up on Zoom, and I'm hoping she's not going to swipe me away, because we're about to talk about dating apps this morning. And specific dating app providers like Bumble and Match Group, they own Tinder, Hinge, and OkCupid. They're laying off swaths of their workforces. Some experts say it's a sign that people are splitting up with the high-end way of making connections. So where do you turn next if this is going to be what's happening? Trina Orchard's here to talk about the trend. As I mentioned, she's via Zoom with us, associate professor in the School of Health Studies at Western University. She's author of the book Sticky, Sexy, Sad, Swipe Culture and the Darker Side of Dating Apps. Good morning.
Good morning.
So why don't we start with what exactly is going on here? What have you heard from people, first of all, who are users of these apps, about what the overall experience is to try and go through these platforms to make real connections?
They say, don't make me use the apps. They're tired of them. They find them very inefficient, increasingly expensive, and they feel overall like it's kind of a waste of their time.
Has that been growing over a number of years, or is this sort of a recent spike in, this doesn't work for us anymore?
It's been growing. In the Halcyon days, 10 or 15 years ago, people were going on hundreds of dates a year, really engaging this new technology and kind of having a blast. I mean, there were negative experiences as well, but in general, it was described as fun and easy. And then over time, I think people got a bit swiped out. We had Me Too. That interrupted how people experience relationships and technology. We had the pandemic. And a lot of the features in dating apps are now for fee. And so people are not that happy that they have to pay for a lot of the things that used to be free.
There's an interesting stat here in language that kind of backs up what you're saying. There was a 2024 Forbes study. It said 79% of, this is an American study, but 79% of Gen Z Americans, 79% were feeling burnt out from dating apps. Burnt out is an interesting way to sort of frame that. But as you've highlighted, it's all of those things that piled on top of each other.
Yeah, burnout is something we typically associate with work. And that's exactly what using dating apps has become. It's a tremendous amount of time, emotional labor, money, heartache, constantly weighing and then re-examining your priorities and reaching out to some people. Some people are going to be ghosting you. Some people are bots. Some people are asking you for money. And all of that is increasingly frustrating to users.
Do you know where people are going? If they're annoyed with the apps, where are they pivoting to, or what might the future look like?
So sometimes in certain cities, there's a real wealth of in real life activities. There's daytime dance parties. There are different kinds of niche events for different communities, different people, different orientations. There's lots of things in the big cities. There's pitch parties where you can pitch your friends, which is kind of fun. Some people are turning to matchmakers. And men in particular are accessing different kinds of specific AI services for dating as well.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, there are certain sites called like Riz, Mino, and Republic, and there's a wealth of different services for a very expensive fee, I might add, that people can access, whether it's chatting with a chatbot in an intimate way, whether it's ordering a sex robot and having that delivered to your home. There are different ways in which AI is being mobilized as part of the romantic landscape.
I guess we'll have to see whether that's going to have more positive or negative effect, or what that's going to mean, what the effect of it will be in the future, as that's a growing area. Obviously, that's not person to person. Now we're talking about technology. Is there advice you have for people out there who are trying to figure all of this out and maybe not sure, maybe they're sick of the apps as well, but they're not even sure sort of where to begin? And I guess, sorry, I'm asking a couple of questions here, but are there apps that are still succeeding and still seen as sort of useful in the dating world if people want to stay online?
Good question. So I think the most important piece of advice is to really diversify your strategy. If you're going to use the apps, okay, a lot of people are sort of leaning towards Hinge instead of Bumble and Tinder. Some people view it as a bit more friendly and a bit more effective, and that more people are using it who are on that particular platform. Think about other social spaces where you already have networks and you're interacting with people who have similar interests. So places like LinkedIn is kind of like emerging as a dark horse in terms of a place to begin making some of those connections. And then thinking about some of the in real life activities that might be available in your area. And in terms of the dating app that is sort of emerging as one that is still used a bit more, I would say Hinge, but people do have issues with it as well. But it seems to be a space where more people are spending a bit more time compared to some of the others.
What should someone ask themselves if they are on an app and they want to see if it could work for them and they're willing to give it a shot? Like, is there a way to read reviews of apps that can be trustworthy,
That is a great point. Yes, and there have been reviews of apps available for years. And you go to Google Play and you scroll down and there are lots of reviews. And those are in person. There's also Reddit, which is an online space. You either love it or hate it. I kind of have a real fondness for Reddit. It's a really old school space and there's lots of feedback, whether you're a feminist, whether you're queer, whether you're straight, etc. There's a whole plethora of people who are weighing in on their experiences.
Thank you very much, Trina, for walking us through this.
My pleasure.
That's Trina Orchard with us live via Zoom. She's an associate professor in the School of Health Studies at Western University, author of the book Sticky, Sexy, Sad, Swipe Culture, and the Darker Side of Dating Apps. So if we are interested to hear if you have any stories, of course. I always ask after every interview pretty much, but whether or not you're done with the dating apps, and if you are, why? And where have you been finding connection in Manitoba specifically? Maybe there's some groups that you've heard about or know about, and we should pass along, which we'll do. Right now in Winnipeg, partly cloudy, 16 degrees. The commute's fine this morning. Call us if not, though, 788-3093. And we have business news coming up. Crystal Ramlakan is going to join us this morning. So right after our local news at 6:30, we'll have the opening day's markets and then other stories. This morning, Crystal is talking about some big layoffs in the tech industry. And we were just talking about layoffs in the dating apps. This is about Microsoft. And also, companies are starting to sign on to the Grocery Code of Conduct. Remember that? We had a bunch of interviews about that in the last number of years. So Crystal will give us the very latest right after your CBC Manitoba News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 16 degrees. Mix of sun and clouds today. A little bit of smoke in the air as well. and a high of 33. The Humidex 36. It's going to be windy as well. Well, withering heat and humidity across southern Manitoba is prompting a heat warning this morning. In fact, today and tomorrow are expected to be the most humid days of summer so far. A hot, humid air mass bringing highs in the low 30s, Humidex values between 35 and 40 by late this afternoon. Relief is expected by Saturday as a cold front tracks through. Winnipeg community centers hope a new wage subsidy will help them offer more programming. Community centers rely on volunteers, but the number of people willing to offer their time has plummeted by nearly half compared to before COVID. A city report recommends a new $250,000 annual grant to help centers hire staff to run programming. Laura Maisman is the head of the General Council of Winnipeg Community Centers.
A lot more community members wanting to participate in events, volunteering 2 or 3 hours rather than getting involved long term. So how do we adjust that?
The grant proposal is part of the new 20-year action plan to reform the city's community centers. That plan goes to Executive Policy Committee next week. Scott Gillingham plans to run for a second term as mayor of Winnipeg. CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
While Winnipeg's next general election is still 15 months away, Scott Gillingham isn't creating any drama about his re-election plans. When CBC News asked Gillingham whether he intends to run in 2026, he issued a one-word email. Yes, he said. Incumbency has been something of a superpower for Winnipeg mayors. It's been nearly 70 years since anyone defeated an incumbent mayor in the city. Gillingham, however, only won the 2022 mayoral race by a narrow margin. He slipped past Glenn Murray by fewer than 4,400 votes. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The chief of a Northern First Nation says it was a slap in the face to see Manitoba Hydro pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars to a former CEO for just 6 weeks of work. Earlier this week, the Crown Corporation's annual pay disclosures showed Jay Graywall received $880,000 last year. She was dismissed 6 weeks into 2024. A business expert says the large payout suggests the utility bought out the rest of her contract. Pimicikamak Chief David Monia says he was deeply offended to see the Crown Corporation honor Graywall's contract while his First Nation still has an unfulfilled agreement.
This kind of payout that we just saw, is in the face of our suffering. It is not only unjust, it's shameful.
Pimicikamak is a signatory of the Northern Flood Agreement, a contract signed between some Manitoba First Nations, Manitoba Hydro, and the provincial and federal governments. The agreement includes a plan to eradicate mass poverty and unemployment for the signing communities. Monia says he is still waiting for that to happen. A woman who claimed a $5 million lottery prize is disputing her ex-boyfriend's claim the jackpot rightfully belongs to him. Crystal McKay was awarded the Lotto 649 prize in January 2024, but her former boyfriend filed a lawsuit saying he is the one who bought the ticket and was its sole owner. McKay's statement of defense says she asked him to buy the ticket for her, but she says it went directly into her wallet, and her boyfriend did not dispute it was her ticket after the number was drawn. Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries was also named in the man's lawsuit. It says it acted within the scope of its duties when it awarded the prize to McKay. The push by U.S. Republicans to pass Donald Trump's mega spending bill is back on track. That bill went to the House of Representatives yesterday, but stalled out when Democrats and several Republicans voted against it or chose not to vote. According to reports, 5 Republicans had abstained from voting for the bill, but early this morning, at least 2 changed their minds and voted in favor. Texas Democratic Representative Lloyd Doggett not mincing words with his displeasure of the bill.
The Independent Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget condemns this as exploding our debt, spiking it to new record highs, and accelerating the insolvency of Social Security and Medicare. One thing remains the same. It takes from those with the least and gives to those with the most, lining the pockets of the super rich with millions in tax giveaways.
The bill offers up large tax cuts for middle and high income earners, but may also cut medical coverage to an estimated 17 million Americans. You can hear the latest national and international news on World Report at 7. And tragic news today from the world of soccer. Liverpool striker Diogo Jota has been killed in a car crash in Spain. Police say the 28-year-old Jota and his 25-year-old brother, who also is a soccer player, were the lone occupants in a vehicle that went off the road near the city of Zamora in Spain and burst into flames. Jota joined Liverpool 5 years ago and was a key player in the club's Premier League championship last season. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
It's time for your regional forecast on CBC. 6:36 a.m. is the time, and here's Abby with those details.
Well, I say it's going to be hot and humid in a lot of areas today. We're going to see temperatures feel like 36, 37 by the afternoon period. Hence, that heat warning in effect for southern Manitoba. Also, we have that special air quality statement still in effect for Flin Flon and nearby areas. Smoke is still causing and maybe causing poor air and reduced visibility in some areas as the wind blows towards that region. So you need to take care. Winnipeg right now, we are looking at 16 degrees, partly cloudy conditions. The sun trying to make its appearance. We have a heat warning in effect as mentioned. Expect a mix of sun and clouds today, warming up to 33 degrees, but with the humidity factored in, it's going to be feeling hotter than that. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region. 15 degrees at this time, more than Winkler, Altoona, Morris, all the way down to the U.S. border with that heat warning in effect. We will see a mix of sun and clouds also. There's a slight chance of showers in the forecast, but that's not really going to cool anything because the humidity, the high is going to be hitting 32 for that part of the province, so it's still going to be hot. Brandon, 15, also partly cloudy skies. Heat warning also in effect for that region. Expect a warm and hot day, a mix of sun and clouds. We're seeing some local smokes in that region. Winds will come from the southeast, making it feel a bit breezy at some point. You warm up to 32. Humidity, it's going to be around 35 degrees. The Parkland region, we're seeing Dauphin with clear conditions at this time, 15 degrees there. A mix of sun and clouds today. There's a chance of showers and even a risk of thunderstorms in the forecast. The highs will be around 30, 31. Now, looking at conditions in the Interlake region, Gimli is currently seeing 12 degrees at this time. Partly cloudy conditions also clearing. We have that heat warning in effect for the Interlake region. Expect sunshine turning to a mix of sun and clouds as you get into the afternoon period. We're still seeing some smoke in that area, so you need to take care. The winds will be coming from the southeast. Your highs will be near 34 degrees. For the Flin Flon nearby area, special air quality statement in effect due to smoke. 18 degrees right now, partly cloudy skies. You're seeing expect some sunny conditions. A good chance of showers in the forecast. Thunderstorms you might get this afternoon. Some lingering smoke will be staying behind. Winds will be mild from the southeast. Eyes near 29. Thompson, 16. Light rain falling there. Similar conditions we're seeing in Churchill, both 15, 16 at this time with light rain falling in the region, and we'll see highs around 25 and 27 for the region. So it's going to be hot and humid. That heat warning in effect for much of southern Manitoba, impacting Winnipeg, Brandon, Gimli, all the way down to the Einarson border, and we should see between 35 and 40 degrees. That's with the humidity, and this will take us into most of Friday. We'll get to see some relief like overnight into Saturday, but today and tomorrow it will be hot.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra Sanders has popped in to update us on what's happening out there on your commute this morning.
Good morning. Wanted to note a major construction project that started yesterday on Abinogi-Meekinaw. So both eastbound and westbound lanes will have partial closures between Dakota Street and River Road. So a big stretch of Abinogi-Meekinaw there. So that means the westbound curb lane, westbound middle lane, and the eastbound curb lane will be closed. One lane of traffic will stay open in each direction, but you can expect delays, especially during those rush hours there this morning and this afternoon. And this project is expected to last until late October. So buckle up. Buckle up for some delays there. So that is the closure on Abinogi-Meekinaw between River Road and Dakota Street there. Other than that, it has been very quiet on the commuter line this morning in the peak summertime commute, I feel. But if that is not the case and there's something slowing you down out there, whether you're here in Winnipeg or you're out there on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
There's Chris Lee Ramlacan popping up on Zoom. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Marcy. How are you?
Good. Let's get into the business news. Your first story is actually about layoffs. We just had a story about layoffs. It seems like every day there's a story. What details are these about? This is the tech industry again.
Yeah, that's right. So Microsoft says it is cutting thousands of jobs. It hasn't said the exact number, but it did say it was less than 4% of its workforce, which would be 9,000 people at the most. So the company also cut about 6,000 jobs in May. So layoff notices are hitting the company's Xbox video game business and other divisions. And Microsoft says the cuts will affect multiple teams around the world, including its sales division. So the company says this is a part of organizational changes needed to succeed in a dynamic marketplace. And, Microsoft has repeatedly characterized its recent layoffs as part of a push to trim major off layers. So, yeah.
Crystal, do you need a moment maybe?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a moment here. So 6:42 a.m., we're live on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on that app and on YouTube. Abby was just through the forecast, and then obviously we had the morning commute news, and Sarah was talking about some big construction news. But I just want to mention something else. I've said it before, but we're getting so much feedback on the new bus system. It just went into place on Sunday. And so we are wondering about your feedback on that. And this morning, as I started the show, I mentioned I was talking about calls, and we'd love to get those at 788-3205. I'm going to dip back actually into our business news and finish the report for Krista Lee, who's just become busy with something. And so I'm just going to pick off where she left off. So she was talking about the layoffs and the tech industry and Microsoft, also making business news this morning. There are some companies that are starting to sign on to the Grocery Code of Conduct. You remember that? That was Sobeys' parent company, Empire, now that has officially signed on as the first retailer. That's the news this morning. Work continues to develop these rules, these governance rules for members. Full implementation here is coming up on January 1st, and dairy product maker Lactalis Canada has also signed on as the first supplier to this. So the Grocery Code, you might recall, is intended at least to promote fair dealings between grocers and their suppliers. This is in an effort to bring more transparency. We were talking all about this through last year. But that also includes the application of penalties and fees if people don't follow the code. So all of Canada's major grocers, Empire, Loblaw, Metro, Walmart, and Costco, they all have confirmed their support for the voluntary code. But this week marks the actual opening for more formal registration. So that is developing business news as well. And then finally, Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know if you went there as a kid. I know I did. There used to be one up on Regent Avenue. Maybe it's still there for all that I know. My mom's favorite was Skeeter Ball. Remember Chuck E. Cheese? All the games in there. You played a little mini basketball hoops and throw the bowling ball down the lane and try to pop it in those rings. That's that Skeeter Ball game. Well, apparently the arcade chain is making a spin-off now, and this one is aimed at adults. It's called Chuck's Arcade. So the company says it's a, quote, modern-day love letter to the games and people who made Chuck E. Cheese great, end quote. And there will be a whole bunch of nostalgic games. So Donkey Kong, anyone? There's also some newer things like Halo and Connect 4 hoops, and every arcade will be overseen by the chain's iconic animatronic characters. So we'll see if that takes off. In markets this morning, in Europe, shares are higher. The DAX in Germany is up. Also in France, the CAC is down. In Asia, stocks in Vietnam continue to climb. That's after Trump announcing a trade deal with that country. The Nikkei is up in Japan. Shanghai is up as well. Oil and gold and the dollar, you'll have to go to cbc.ca/business for the latest numbers, and you can check that out. We wish Krista Lee well. She is okay, just in case anyone on the air is wondering what happened there, and we will reach her once again tomorrow on CBC. 6:45 a.m. is the time right now on CBC. Let's move to something that is sure to make you smile. First of all, let's start with the local story. about the parrot that you might have heard. Winnipegger Brandon Sankar, just in the last week we reported on this, he lost his parrot Neptune, and all these people came together to try to search for it, and it was found on a soccer field 3 kilometers away from home. So quite a story out of Winnipeg. It turns out, though, that parrots are making the news in other places as well. The Calgary Parrot Club recently flew the coop and paid a visit to a local seniors home in Northwest Calgary to spread a little bit of joy. The CBC's Jenny DeRosio was there as well.
Hi. Oh, yeah. Hello.
So, first name Brian, last name Ford. I am vice president of the Calgary Parrot Club. Today's amazing because we have a couple of Amazons, a couple of cockatoos, we have a bunch of conures, 2 Quakers. It's just lovely. Oh, and African Greys. And obviously some really big social media stars with Gizmo and Max the Moluccans. It's always great to have them at the event.
How often do you do seniors' homes, and why do you like to come to them?
Yeah, so we try to do senior homes ideally once a month. And I think it's a combination. So one, it's just look at the seniors, right? I mean, they don't see parrots very often, if ever. So I just find it's so rewarding for the members just to see how happy it makes the seniors, but it's actually really good for the birds. So the birds also need socialization and they need stimulation, and it's actually very healthy for them. So, for example, Tila, who's my one behind us, I adopted him. He has aggressive issues around aggression, but getting him out here and getting him to visit is really good.
That's what that snake on command. Where's your whistle? Scott, 45 years old.
You introduced your bird earlier, but what's their name?
His name is Thumper. Thumper. Hello. Oh, and there you go. Where's your chicken? Where's your rooster? Where's a puppy? Bark. No, don't giggle. Where's a puppy? Bark. Where's a kitty? Where's a horse?
Oh my goodness. I didn't know so many animals could fit inside that one bird.
He does a good seagull and a crow and a turkey and a duck.
How did you teach him all this?
Just repetition. He likes to learn noises. He doesn't want to learn to talk.
What do you think of this bird?
The bird's awesome.
Have you ever seen anything like it?
No, I haven't ever been in a room with this many birds.
Me neither.
Say hi, Max. Yeah, I know. I hear it.
My name is Nicole Hankel. I'm here with Max the Moluccan, and I am promotions with the Calgary Parrot Club.
You've been following around a very stately bird. Tell me a little bit about what Max looks like.
Absolutely. Max is a really large Moluccan cockatoo. His coloration is very light peach, and he has a brilliant orange crest when he lifts it up.
So he's a particular favorite among seniors. Tell me why.
Absolutely. Max has been on social media for years, and he has a very strong following. On Facebook, over 95,000 followers, most of whom are seniors, and they've just fallen in love with his antics. He clucks like a chicken, he barks like a dog, he's super sweet, loves meeting people, and is always up to something new.
Oh, look at that. Hi. May I?
You have a bird named Frost on your shoulder. How does that feel?
Wonderful.
She seems pretty gentle.
I'm excited to think that some little bird would sit on my shoulder.
Right? Have you ever seen a bird like this?
Oh, I've never seen a bird like that. This is a real experience.
She's listening to you talk.
Well, I love this little bird, and I hope it lives for a long time.
I was going to come here for church.
You were going to come here for church, and then instead, what did you find?
Well, birds. Birds and birds and birds. All kinds, all colors.
Yeah.
Yes, and everybody very happy.
Did you ever have any birds as pets when you were growing up, or?
No, because there was 7 girls in my family, so there was no room for, well, there was animals like dogs and cats, but no birds.
Yeah. So, would you have one now?
No, thank you.
CBC's Jenny DeRosio chatting with a few new members of the Calgary Parrot Club and residents of the Scenic Acres Retirement Residence residents at the Scenic Acres Retirement Residence in Northwest Calgary. I'm distracted because I heard the greatest story about parrots in the weekend. I don't know if you saw this being reported, but 5 parrots at a British zoo had to be separated because they were swearing and laughing at the people who were visiting the zoo. Some visitors found it amusing. Others did not. And if you want to read more about that parrot story out of Winnipeg that developed in the last week, that parrot was happily found after a Winnipegger lost his pet.
Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill is one of the biggest debut albums of all time. But you ought to know that just 1 year prior to its release, she was rejected by every major label. So what changed everything? From the creators of Under the Influence comes the summer series We Regret to Inform You. Wednesday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland and on demand on CBC Listen.
Well, what you need to know today is that there's a heat warning for all of southern Manitoba, includes Winnipeg, and this is the serious stuff. So take shelter or take advantage of the city's cooling centers and places that are open today, rec centers, libraries, where you can cool off, because today this hot air mass is going to move in. Our actual daytime high in Winnipeg is 33. With Humidex, it's going to feel like 36. It's already 16 degrees here in the downtown. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and this is your morning show. And next on the program, Pretendians and Publications. That's the title of a new report published by the Yellowhead Institute, an Indigenous-led research and education center. The 20-page study looks at people falsely claiming Indigenous ancestry in the research world and the problems and solutions to what authors call, quote, Redface research. Amy Shawanda is co-author of the report and with us now. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us this morning via Zoom. Tell us more about that term, Redface research, and why this is something you feel is important to look into right now.
Yeah, so red face research is, you see at sporting events, people putting on red face makeup and they have the feathers in their hair and, just really imitating First Nations, Métis Inuit culture and really taking on this persona that they are us. So basically, the way we had termed it was, people imitating our cultures without the lived experience.
But the researchers you're looking at actually have gone deeper than that, right? They're actually claiming to be and identify as people who are Indigenous, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really interesting thing to see. And we see CBC has been excellent, especially Jeff Leo uncovering each of these stories as they've come out. And there's some very prolific people that have been exposed in these work that CBC has done.
What are the greatest harms with pretendians in academia specifically?
I think there's multiple harms that are being done. I don't think we can specify just one. For me, as an educator and a professor, when I'm teaching students, you have non-Indigenous students who are impacted by this, as well as the Indigenous students that I work with, thinking they're getting real, authentic knowledge from somebody when they're not. And so that creates like this distrust, and especially with our Indigenous students. And then you have communities that are impacted, especially when we're doing research in these areas. For example, if you have someone that's claiming to be First Nations researcher when they're not, it really impacts in how they are collecting data and how they're analyzing the data. And that, again, comes in. And so the whole term of pretendians and publications is when we are in these spaces that they are now directing what Indigenous research is. And it really skews that health data sets.
What recommendations have come out of the research and the report into this?
So for me, one of the biggest things was the publications piece. As part of tenure or pre-tenure professors, we often have to have these certain checkboxes, and one of them is publications and dissemination of knowledge. And so when we're disseminating the knowledge, publications also play a big role in whether or not they're verifying who they say, people who say they are, and the research that is being done. And right now there's nothing. And so we're really pushing and educating people about what verification policy look like, what it could have, and especially in the research realm is like, we can do better. Let's do better, guys.
And when you say what it could have, that verification, can you give us an example of something that it could have to sort of make sure someone is who they say they are and that their background, and their identity is in fact, verified?
Right. I've been seeing multiple really great, if you look in the report itself, we've looked at different universities and what they're doing. I'm at McGill, and one of the things we did, we just passed our policy last year. It's a start. It's not comprehensive. And I've seen other comprehensive ones. And some of the ones that look at that is like maybe someone that was a 60 scoop, maybe their family were 60 scoopers, adopted out. We have so many impacts in our community. So just having the first policy, it's not going to be the best policy when you first initiate it, but at least there's something in place. So just having something in place right now is so important to reduce the fraudulent identity claims.
And having a policy in place, is it an interactive thing, or is it just something on the books at the institution which says we care about this and we're going to check?
I think it's really important to have it as a living document, something that you're going to revisit. And, as we're seeing things come up or people's stories come up, we also have our non-status members, like the Indian Act really did a number on our communities. And so I think we're very cognizant of what that looks like. I think just looking at what's there, how other universities are interacting with these policies, I've seen some where they strengthen, and I've seen some areas where we can improve. So I think it's a really great first step. It's, again, a living document that just will need to be revisited as things arise.
I know you have, I believe this is your rule of thumb. It says ask 5 different people to ask who they are. Some of this is verification by those that would know a person, right? Yeah. So with that one, we were talking is I work with a lot of researchers, and the non-Indigenous one will be like, oh, I have so-and-so on. I was like, hold on, I don't know who that is. Like, let me go ask around. And just because I would say 5 rule of thumb just for myself is just because you could have 2 people fooled that you are who they say that you are, like you're claiming to be, and the other 3 will be like, So I'm not Mi'kmaq, I'm not Inuit. I have friends in those communities. So because I'm not familiar with their nation or their communities, I would go ask people, and I would ask 5 different people just so that I have my own verification process. That's who they say they are. But also in our communities, we also verify. People ask me all the time, like, who's your family and where are you from? And I'm happy to give that information up. I'm not standoffish about it at all. I'm not sure if you have this on hand, Amy, but where can people read the report, Pretendians and Publications? Is it published right now on a website for people to check out? So it's at the Yellowhead Institute. Fantastic people. It's led by Hayden King at TMU, Toronto Metropolitan University. It's free report. It's downloadable. It's a PDF, easy to read. And we also have tons of graphics. So we wanted to make it accessible for everybody. Okay, thanks for that. Appreciate it. And thanks for the conversation. Thank you. That is Amy Schwanda with us, a co-author of Pretendians and Publications, The Problems and Solutions to Redface Research. And you can check it out, as she mentioned, at the Yellowhead Institute online. It is 3 minutes to 7 o'clock, and Heather Wells joins us here in person in downtown Winnipeg at our studios with our day's headlines.
Good morning. Well, Winnipeg community centers could get an extra $250,000 a year to help hire staff. The city proposes an annual wage subsidy, which it hopes will boost flagging volunteer numbers. Nearly half as many people are offering their time now compared to before COVID. A woman who claimed a $5 million lottery prize disputes her ex-boyfriend's claim the jackpot rightfully belongs to him. Crystal Mackay was awarded the Lotto 649 in January 2024, but her former boyfriend filed a lawsuit saying he is the one who bought the ticket and is its sole owner. We'll hear the latest in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Remember when we did all those stories about signing tickets of fixing the trees or making the trees healthy? We'll dig into that. And we have a one-on-one, two-part feature interview with a woman who survived a sexual assault and wants to share.
Today on The Current.
We intend to, from a federal level, to have free trade by Canada Day.
I'm Duncan McHugh. Big promises have been made to remove many interprovincial trade barriers, but some businesses say the patchwork of solutions that's being implemented could create new challenges. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
No war is without consequences, not even a trade war. Now we're about to get a picture of how much Canada's economy is suffering as a result of U.S. tariffs. We know exports plunged more than 10% in April. This hour, Statistics Canada releases the updated trade numbers for May. The CBC's Peter Armstrong has more.
In a lot of ways, Canada's economy has held up better than many had expected. GDP contracted in April, but it only shrank 0.1%. And that was at the peak of the tariffs, the trade war, and all the uncertainty. Through this, tracking exports has been difficult, in large part because there's an awful lot of noise in the data. We knew businesses on both sides of the border scrambled to get products across the border before tariffs kicked in, so there was a surge in exports in February and March. That was bound to lead to a significant drop-off in April. The question is, what happened in May and June? Today, Statistics Canada will give us a big piece of that puzzle. Did exports continue to lag? StatCan already told us it believes the economy probably shrank in May. And where was that weakness coming from? Manufacturing and exports. So, safe to assume exports continued to fall in May. We'll see shortly just how steep that fall looks on paper. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
It has been a sleepless night for many politicians in the U.S. Capitol. Debate on U.S. President Donald Trump's tax and spending bill is keeping the House of Representatives in session. The bill narrowly passed the Senate earlier this week. Today's expected vote will determine if it gets pushed through. Our Katie Nicholson is watching from Washington. And Katie, where do things stand?
It's been another marathon session on Capitol Hill, but Speaker Mike Johnson may be on the brink of fulfilling a very tall order. The small group of Republican holdouts, there were 5 representatives. Speaker Johnson spoke briefly with Fox's Sean Hannity last night.
We're tying up some loose ends. It's taken a little while to go through the changes, to have everybody fully process that, and that's part of the process. So no huge pressure here. We're allowing these conversations to continue.
Now, through the night, the president expressed his frustration on social media, posting, "What are the Republicans waiting for? What are you trying to prove?" Multiple question marks in all caps. MAGA is not happy and it's costing you votes. So Johnson appears to believe that now they have the votes. But first, there is procedure. There was debate and the House leaders get to speak. And now House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, he started speaking around 5 a.m. He may take a long time to delay the actual vote.
This bill is supposed to continue the Trump administration's tax cuts for the most wealthy from 2017, increased funds for border security and the Pentagon, but it's also being heavily criticized for what it cuts. Tell us more.
It does take deep bites from the social safety net, in addition to driving up the national debt by an estimated $3.3 trillion over 10 years. And that is a message House Democrats have been hammering over the last 24 hours on the floor. Here's Hakeem Jeffries again.
This disgusting abomination, the GOP tax scam that guts Medicaid, rips food from the mouths of children, seniors, and veterans, and rewards billionaires with massive tax breaks.
Now, if this bill clears the last hurdle, it moves to Donald Trump's desk. He will get to sign it into law, as he wanted, by July 4th. But many in his party may soon face a reckoning. There are estimates 12 million Americans or more may lose health coverage, and this could impact rural health care, issues that may haunt Republicans in the midterms.
Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Katie Nicholson reporting from Washington. Gaza health officials say more than 80 Palestinians were killed by Israeli airstrikes overnight. Many of them were killed while reportedly waiting for humanitarian aid. Israel's military is not commenting on the strikes, but international efforts to reach a ceasefire in Gaza are ramping up. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has a planned visit to Washington next week. The CBC's Tom Perry is in Jerusalem with the latest.
Another chaotic scene as men pull bodies wrapped in white shrouds from the backs of battered cars at a hospital in Gaza City. Among the dead, Dr. Marwan Al-Sultan, a renowned cardiologist who served as director of Gaza's Indonesian hospital, killed along with several members of his family in an Israeli airstrike. This war must stop, says Al-Sultan's daughter Lubna. We're hungry, we're scared, we've lost people. I call upon everyone to intensify efforts to stop the war, she says. U.S. President Donald Trump says Israel has agreed to conditions to finalize a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, during which time, he says, the U.S. will work with all parties toward a permanent end to the war. Hamas says it's studying the proposal, which will reportedly involve, among other things, an exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. There are reports Hamas will submit an official response by Friday, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu set to meet Trump the following Monday, the U.S. president urging both sides to make a deal. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The United Nations says more than 4,000 people have been deliberately killed in Haiti so far this year. That is a 24% increase over the same time frame last year. Miroslav Yencha is the UN's Assistant Secretary General for the Americas.
Without increased action by the international community, the total collapse of state presence in the capital could become a very real scenario.
He says gangs have strengthened their foothold in Haiti. Their territory now includes all of the Port-au-Prince metropolitan area, and it's expanding. Haiti is also seeing the number of vigilante groups grow. The UN says that is pushing the demand for guns, military-grade weapons, and fueling the illegal arms market. In Indonesia, rescuers are searching the waters off the coast of Bali. They're looking for people who were on a ferry that sank on Wednesday night. In total, 65 passengers and crew were on board the vessel. Survivors say there appeared to be a leak in the engine room. So far today, 4 people are confirmed dead. About 30 others have been rescued. Soccer fans are mourning 2 international soccer players, Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva, have died in a car accident in Spain. Jota was popular in Britain, where he played for Liverpool FC. The CBC's Crystal Gomansing brings us reaction from London.
We just received the heartbreaking news a moment ago before we came into the chamber that he tragically lost his life at just 28.
Lisa Nandy, the Secretary of Culture, Media and Sport for the UK, stood in the House of Commons this morning to honour international soccer player Diogo Jota and his brother Andre Silva, who was also a soccer player.
I wanted to send our sympathies to his friends and family on behalf of the whole House.
Liverpool FC, where Jota played as a forward and won the Premier League title, said it was made aware of the fatal crash that occurred in northwestern Spain. It requested privacy for the player's family, friends, teammates and club staff as they try to come to terms with an unimaginable loss. Authorities say the Lamborghini the brothers were driving had a tire blowout in Zamora province. The vehicle went off the road and caught fire. Jota had just married his longtime partner and the mother of his 3 young children. The president of the Portuguese Football Federation described Jota as an extraordinary person, someone with an infectious joy. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, London.
Hundreds of flights in and out of France are cancelled today and tomorrow. French air traffic controllers are walking off the job for a 2-day strike. Union officials say they're standing up against persistent understaffing, outdated equipment, and a toxic management culture. France's Civil Aviation Agency has asked airlines to cut 25% of flights coming through Paris airports today. And tomorrow, they have to cut the number of flights in and out of the capital in half. Habs fans will cheer for their team in any language. But Quebec's language watchdog has an opinion on this. In 2024, it took a hard line with Montreal's transit agency and forced it to scrub the word go from signs on city buses. The signs were changed to Allez, Canadienne, Allez. But now the language watchdog has updated its online dictionary. It says allez is still the preferred term, but the English go has been partially legitimized to cheer on sports teams. So, Go Habs Go is now officially part of Quebec culture. And that is World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a steamer of a day. It's going to be very hot. We've got warnings actually in place about it. Live from downtown Winnipeg. Thanks for joining us on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Well, this hour on the show, we've got a packed hour ahead. First of all, we're going to have a follow-up for an interview we did yesterday. We heard how some residents of Wolseley are worried about their tree canopy. They're going to be treating it. They're raising money to try to get ahead of the problem themselves. They're trying to raise thousands of dollars for this treatment, so we're going to look into exactly what that treatment is. In addition, this hour on the program, you have been writing to us about your issues on the bus and with the new service. And some of you also with your kudos and you're liking it. So we're going to hear more of your mixed opinions on Winnipeg's new transit system. And then she says she felt like giving up after hearing many cases like hers end up in a he said, she said situation. Why a Manitoba victim of sexual assault pursued justice. She is going to join us for a special two-part interview, a feature interview today about what lessons she learned along the way to seeing the man that hurt her sentenced to jail time. So stay tuned. Part one of that interview is coming up right before 8 o'clock. Right now, let's go to other headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, the chief of a Northern First Nation says he was disgusted to see hundreds of thousands of dollars paid out to a former Manitoba Hydro CEO. Earlier this week, the Crown Corporation's annual pay disclosures showed Jay Graywall received $880,000 last year, despite being dismissed just 6 weeks into 2024. Pimachikamak Chief David Monias says it is a slap in the face for Manitoba Hydro to honor Graywall's contract while his First Nation has an unfulfilled agreement with the utility. Winnipeggers don't vote in a civic election for 15 months. When they do, one name they will see on the ballot for mayor is Scott Gillingham. The mayor confirms he plans to run for a second term in 2026. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
To the weather now. Let's go to Abby.
It's going to get hot and sticky across the southern part of the province this morning. We do have that heat warning in place for most of southern Manitoba, from Winnipeg stretching all the way to the U.S. border. Due to that, very warm and humid air pushing our way, we'll see temperatures climb close to, it's going to be feeling close to the 40s with the humidity factored in, while in the northwestern part of the province, smoke from wildfires still affecting air in Flin Flon communities around that area, hence that special air quality statement. But right now, we're seeing 17 degrees already, Marcy, in most of the regions, and Gimli is at 19 at this time.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
The morning commute's been a little bit quiet, but there is some construction and some other things to think about. So Sierra's in with our report at 7:12 a.m.
Good morning. Wanted to note some major construction that started yesterday on Abinogi-Mikina. So both eastbound and westbound lanes will have partial closures between Dakota Street and River Road. So a big stretch there of Abinogi-Mikina. So that means the westbound curb lane, westbound middle lane, and the eastbound curb lane will be closed. One lane of traffic will stay open in each direction, but you can expect delays there, especially during rush hour and probably here in the next hour or so. Expect some delays in that area, and that project is expected to last until late October. So quite a bit of time there with that project. So stay patient and expect some delays or plan an alternate route as well. Other than that, it's been very quiet on the commuter line. No calls so far. But if that is not the case and there's something slowing you down out there, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, we have a follow-on an interview we did yesterday about trees. The Wolseley Tree Committee is raising money. They're trying to save elms in their neighborhood. They're looking for $100,000 to get their hands on Arbotect 20S. That's an injectable fungicide that can be used to fight Dutch elm disease. So yesterday I had Ian Dick on the program from the Wolseley Residents Association Tree Committee.
They will be going extinct if we don't do anything. It's happening across the city, but Wolseley and the West End especially are losing trees faster than other areas. Yeah, pressure's on.
Carla Antonation of Trilogy Tree Services says this treatment ranges between $500 to $1,000 per tree. She's a certified arborist and a qualified tree risk assessor, and she joins us now to talk more about how this actually works. Good morning.
Morning, Marcy.
I guess first of all, just we have a lot of experience with Dutch elm disease in this city, obviously, and the city arborist has been looking at our tree canopy and having concerns for years, and they've tried various different programs. Often it does come down to funding, which is the challenge in getting ahead of things. But let's remind ourselves how this spreads. How does Dutch elm disease go from tree to tree?
Well, we have to remember that it's a fungal disease. There's kind of two parts to it. There's the fungal disease and then there's the beetle. So we often get confused about what the actual problem is, but it's the fungal disease and it is spread from tree to tree in two ways. The beetle, like I said, that carries spores of the fungus and deposits them into healthy elm trees. And then the second way it can spread is through the root systems of two trees that have grafted together. And then the fungus, it blocks the tree's water conducting system, which leads to wilting, yellowing, and eventually the dead leaves and the sections of canopy that we all can recognize.
Oh, there's various treatments available against DED. Can you tell me what you think are the most effective ones?
You know what? It's really a combination of different care practices. The number one thing is prevention. So once a tree is diseased or shows symptoms of disease, the first line of defense on that is just quick, rapid removal. Get the diseased tree out of the area. But other than that, we need a combination of keeping trees healthy. We need to water them, especially years where it's dry like this one. And we also need to cultivate healthy soil because trees need healthy soil to get all their resources from the soil.
What can I move to the process beyond prevention? I'm wondering about once a tree is already sick and someone's saying they're going to inject it with something here. I want to get into this. How does this work and what's going into the tree?
So once it's already sick, then nothing works. But yeah, like aside from keeping trees healthy, you have to do that in combination with injecting trees with a fungicide. So again, this is a preventative fungicide injection. And the idea is that you get fungicide into the tree's vascular system to act as like a barrier of defense. If that flying beetle comes along and deposits a spore, there's already fungicide within the vascular system that's going to prevent the disease from growing.
So it's hard to get ahead of, is what I'm hearing you say.
Well, it's it's preventative. So you keep your trees healthy, and the only way to, really protect your trees is to inject them.
So if you inject this at the base of the tree, I understand it's effective almost immediately and it spreads to the whole canopy of the tree within hours. But how long does it last, or how often do you have to inject a tree?
So the Arbortect that they were talking about is a 3-year treatment. And yeah, it gets injected at the base of the tree. We make small holes into the root flare. We get the fungicide into the vascular system. And then, within a couple of hours, the tree will take it up all the way up to the tips. And now the tree is protected for 3 years.
I understand that it doesn't, Arbortect 20S doesn't protect elm trees from the root graft infection.
Right. So just, due to the biology of the tree, product moves up. And so we have no way of getting it into the root system.
So you have to go tree to tree. It's not like it spreads and protects it if those trees' roots are intertwined and the next one next door is infected.
Right.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that it leaves the root systems vulnerable because we can't get any fungicide into the root systems.
We're hearing that the average cost to save one elm tree is $700. Why is the treatment so expensive?
The product itself is very expensive. And then over the last, I would say, 3 years, we've seen significant jumps in the price of that product itself.
In terms of what your reaction is to what's happening in Wolseley, how realistic is it that this group, while well-intentioned, will actually be able to save their trees?
Anything will help. So, any amount of money that they can raise and put towards tree protection will help. And I think one of the benefits of doing this on a community level is that they can perhaps raise enough money to inject all the trees on one boulevard. And by doing so, you're protecting the root systems of all of, like, you're essentially protecting all of the trees because, if you protect one tree but not the one beside it, then you're still leaving that protected one vulnerable because of that root system.
Yeah, you've got that bad apple in the middle of a good bunch, and it's just going to spread through.
But doing this on the community level is great.
Have you used this treatment before to save trees? Could you quantify how many trees you've managed to save with this?
That's
impossible
a hard
question.
We've been using this product itself for, I would say, close to 10 years.
Okay.
We used a different product prior to that, but this particular one about 10 years, and we've seen a lot of success with it. It really, it is the only product that we have available to us right now. It's what we use.
Well, we'll see what happens in Wolseley. Thank you very much for sharing more about how it is supposed to work and to get into this. Appreciate your time, Carla.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the efforts they're doing in Wolseley. That's amazing.
Carla Antonation with us live this morning, an ICA certified arborist and qualified tree risk assessor with Trilogy Tree Services. CBC did reach out to the city for comment and to the forester, the city forester, Martha Barwinski. I've got her title wrong because my head is just not grabbing that this morning. But we will bring you an interview in the days ahead if we do get a response.
CBC Music, live at Massey Hall, the most iconic music venue in Canada. An absolute milestone in the careers of musicians who stand on the historic stage. And you have a front row seat. All right. A new season of episodes now available. Bahamas, The Glorious Sons, The Sadies, Field Guide, Serena Ryder, O.C. Elliott, and Chantal Kreviazik. CBC Music, live at Massey Hall. Watch free on CBC Gem.
I got it right. Martha Barwinski is the city forester here in Winnipeg. It is 7:22 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app and on YouTube. And we have sad news to share this morning and music to play as the community remembers and absorbs the news that in Winnipeg, indie pop band Royal Canoe has lost one of their longtime bandmates. He and his partner died on Canada Day after the vehicle they were in was struck along a highway in western Manitoba. That's according to RCMP. So the bassist for Royal Canoe has died, Brendan Berg, and the band posted in a statement on social media that he and his partner Olivia Michalchuk both died on Tuesday. They put a statement on Instagram. Berg would have turned 43 yesterday, and Michalchuk was 31 years old. They posted, quote, "We're all in a state of shock trying to process this tragic news. Brennan was the kindest, sweetest man you could ever know, and his passing has left an enormous and sudden hole in the lives of everyone who knew him," end quote. You can read on cbc.ca/Manitoba this morning more about the loss. But let's remember in music. Here's Royal Canoe, nominated for the Juno Award in 2014 for this album. This is Today We're Believers.
Up above the winter's casualty. Emblems of the force that through the green fields drives the flowers to sing. We get richer every day by staying here all right. Today
the name of that track, Today We're Believers. It was also the name of the Juno-nominated album in 2014 for local band Royal Canoe, but we're playing it this morning for a really sad reason. The band confirming on social media with posts of sadness that their bassist, the Winnipeg bassist for Royal Canoe, Brandon Berg, and his partner Olivia died Tuesday in a car crash north of Swan River. We've yet to talk to the band, but I suspect we'll have some interviews and remembrances through the day. We're actually starting morning sports now on a bit of a tragic note as well. Scott Regehr, good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
It's brilliant from Diogo Jota, yes! A moment of quality and a moment of class unlocks the Everton door on Derby Day.
The sound, Marcy, of Liverpool star Diogo Jota scoring a goal against rivals Everton. Jota, one of the world's top strikers, died this morning in a car crash in Spain. Police say he and his brother, Andre Silva, were passing another vehicle when one of the tires of their Lamborghini ruptured, leading to the fatal crash. Jota was in the prime of his footballing career. He leaves behind not just a mourning fan base from both his club and his country, Portugal. Jota was married, Marcy, just a few years ago to his longtime girlfriend with whom he'd had 3 children. After the wedding, he posted on social media, "Yes to forever." Diogo Jota, gone far too young at the age of 28.
So young. Let's move to some other soccer news now. Obviously much lighter news, but this is Canada's men's and women's national teams.
Yeah, and very positive news. Jonathan David has found his next club, Marcy, and it is a big one. The Canadian striker will play for Juventus going forward. Based in Turin, Juve is one of the world's most iconic sides. David, who is Canada's all-time leading scorer, will now be tasked to get that club back to the top of Italy's top flight, a spot Juve has not held in 5 years. So good luck to Jonathan David. Meantime, not so great news for Canada's women's team. They fell to the U.S. yesterday 3-0 in a friendly match held in Washington, D.C. It has been a quarter of a century since the Canadians last won on American soil, and defender Vanessa Gilles says there's work to be done to change that.
It's a reality check. With all due respect, this isn't Costa Rica, this isn't Haiti, this isn't Argentina. This is a top 10 team. This is a team that's won World Cups, and if we want to win a World Cup, then it comes from beating these teams. With the focus Casey's putting on that World Cup, I do think that we have a very good shot of winning that World Cup, but we do, like I said, need to look at this game and the games that are coming against top 10 teams, because we're not going to get away with mistakes we've gotten away with from these past camps.
The next Women's World Cup will be held in Brazil come 2027.
Let's finish with the CFL. There's a new bowl game set to kick off in Calgary.
Yeah, move over Banjo Bowl. Well, maybe. In honor of the Stampede, which gets underway tomorrow, Marcy, the inaugural Stampede Bowl is going to take place tonight. Not only does this game have standings implications, but there is a trophy on the line, a silver bowl flanked by red handles in the shape of a horse's head. Plus, we have former Poison frontman Bret Michaels performing the halftime show. Maybe every rose has a thorn in there, too, if we get lucky.
Do they put the trophy in your bed so you wake up with it like the Godfather?
Godfather, don't do that. Too early. No. As for the football bit, the Bombers will have reinforcements tonight. Rating most outstanding player Brady Oliveira set to return from an undisclosed injury. He was knocked out of Winnipeg's first game of the season on the opening drive. Now, while any injury can be frustrating, Oliveira says, Marcy, this was especially hard to deal with because of how positive he was feeling heading into this season.
I was feeling really good in myself. Physically, I was feeling really good, and mentally, I was just seeing it. I just think I'm reaching a new level when it comes to the running back position and how to attack defenses and run the ball efficiently and effectively, and that's exactly what I did. And I think in my 2 carries that I had in that game. So yeah, I'm just excited to get back out there, get hit a few times, and continue to elevate my game.
The first ever Stampede Bowl kicks off tonight at 8 o'clock. Leave the gun, take the cannolis.
See you later. Talk
See
to you
you later.
tomorrow. Scott Regehr with Morning Sports. We're coming up to news time here. 788-3093 if you see anything major developing in traffic. Sierra has a bit of a rundown of some of the big construction projects, but nothing has developed this morning so far that we feel we need to pass along. If you see something, though, please call us, 788-3093. Still ahead, speaking of commuting, how's that new transit system going? We've been hearing from people all week. This is the first full week with it in place, and we'll hear more after the CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it's 17 degrees, becoming a mix of sun and clouds today. And that wind is going to pick up. It's calm right now, but it's going to be southeast 30, gusting to 50 later this morning. A high of 33, humidex 36. And that brings us to a warning as oppressive, dangerous heat and humidity move into southern Manitoba today. Environment Canada says today and tomorrow will be the most humid days of summer so far. A hot, humid air mass is bringing highs into the low 30s and humidex values between 35 and 40 by late this afternoon. Relief is expected by Saturday as a cold front moves in. Winnipeg community centres could get an extra $250,000 a year to help hire staff. The city proposes an annual wage subsidy, which it hopes will boost flagging volunteer numbers. Nearly half as many people are offering their time now compared to before the COVID pandemic. Laura Maisman is head of the General Council of Winnipeg Community Centres. She says the lack of volunteers means centres have to charge fees in order to hire staff to run programming.
It would be ideal to have programming staff and have those doors open, have community have access to the facility without having to pay fees to attend the facility.
The grant proposal is part of a new 20-year action plan to reform the city's community centres. That plan goes to the Executive Policy Committee next week. The chief of a Northern Manitoba First Nation says he was disgusted to see hundreds of thousands of dollars paid out to a former Manitoba Hydro CEO. Earlier this week, the Crown Corporation's annual pay disclosures showed Jay Graywall received $880,000 last year, despite being dismissed just 6 weeks into the year in 2024. A business expert tells CBC the large payout suggests the utility bought out the rest of her contract. Pimachikamak Chief David Monias says it's a slap in the face for Manitoba Hydro to honor Graywall's contract while his First Nation has an unfulfilled agreement with the utility.
This kind of payout that we just saw, is in the face of our suffering. It is not only unjust, it's shameful.
And Monius says Graywall largely refused to meet with First Nations leaders during her tenure as CEO. He also alleges she breached a signed agreement between Pimachikamak, Manitoba Hydro, and the federal and provincial governments. Well, it's still more than a year away, but Scott Gillingham says he plans to run for a second term as mayor of Winnipeg. Bartley Kivas reports.
While Winnipeg's next general election is still 15 months away, Scott Gillingham isn't creating any drama about his re-election plans. When CBC News asked Gillingham whether he intends to run in 2026, he issued a one-word email. Yes, he said. Incumbency has been something of a superpower for Winnipeg mayors. It's been nearly 70 years since anyone defeated an incumbent mayor in the city. Gillingham, however, only won the 2022 mayoral race by a narrow margin. He slipped past Glenn Murray by fewer than 4,400 votes. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Health officials say airstrikes and shootings in the Gaza Strip have killed 94 Palestinians overnight. They say dozens of people died in airstrikes that pounded tents and a school sheltering displaced people in the territory. Half of those killed were trying to get humanitarian aid. Later this hour, we're getting the latest update on how Canada's economy is being affected by the Trump tariffs. The export trade numbers for the month of May are being released, with most analysts expecting to see a significant drop-off due primarily to the tariffs on the automotive sector and on steel and aluminum exports in April, which plunged by more than 10%. We'll have the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. A woman who claimed a $5 million lottery prize is disputing her ex-boyfriend's claim the jackpot rightfully belongs to him. Crystal Mackay was awarded the Lotto 649 prize in January 2024, but her former boyfriend filed a lawsuit saying he is the one who bought the ticket and was its sole owner. Mackay's statement of defense says she asked him to buy the ticket for her, but she says it went directly into her wallet. And her boyfriend did not dispute it was her ticket after the number was drawn. Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries was also named in this man's lawsuit. It says it acted within the scope of its duties when it awarded the prize to Mackay. And the World Health Organization is urging countries to significantly raise the price of tobacco, alcohol, and sugary drinks to cut chronic disease. It proposes an increase of at least 50% over the next decade. The WHO says rising consumption is fueling heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. The organization cites a recent report suggesting a one-time price hike could prevent 50 million premature deaths over 50 years. You can find the latest news updated throughout your day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Time for the regional forecast now. Heather mentioned that heat warning in the news. Abby's here to walk through the regions. Now, this is south. North is rainy and not chilly, but cooler. But where do you want to start, Abby?
Yeah, let's just say we're warming close to 40 degrees with the humidity factored in for most of the regions down south. We're seeing 17 degrees now. So, Marcia, I'm just going to summarize. Down south, 17 degrees. Up north, we see light rain and temperatures around 15 degrees because Thompson Churchill still at 15, 19 in the part, and then every other place we're seeing 16 and 17 degrees in the southern part. But be warned that we have that air quality warning also in place for folks in Flin Flon surrounding areas. So there's still smoke, and the smoke is actually blowing in at this time. So we have smoke in that region. It's impacting visibility and air quality already for folks in that area. So take care. But you see a mix of sun and clouds today. Today, most regions we will warm up to 35s, and we should be seeing the humidity close to 40 degrees.
Very, very serious stuff.
It's going to be more like hydrate and stay cool.
Yep, for sure. All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Time to get into our morning commute. Sarah Sanders is just popping in now with the details. And I know that she has a long list, but a lot of this aren't things that are developing this morning. They're things that maybe to be aware of. Unless you've had any calls.
So far, no calls. Things are moving smoothly out there this morning. But yes, noting a construction project that started yesterday, but some people might not know about yet, on Abino Meekinaw between Dakota Street and River Road. Both eastbound and westbound lanes will have some closures. So this means that the westbound curb lane, westbound middle lane, and eastbound curb lane will be closed. But there will be one lane of traffic open in each direction, but you can expect delays there, especially during rush hour. So here in the next probably hour or so, you can expect some delays. And this project, unfortunately, is expected to last until late October. So buckle up. Buckle in, maybe, and expect a little bit of a longer drive there. So expect delays or find an alternate route there. But other than that, as I mentioned, it's been quiet on the commuter line. But if that is not the case and there's something out there slowing you down, whether you are here in Winnipeg or out there on the highways, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
Let's spend... there's my mic. Let's spend a minute talking about your jersey for a second, shall we? Because who are you going to cheer for tonight? Because the Bombers are in Calgary playing, playing Calgary. Imagine that. And Sierra's got her Bomber jersey on, so she's repping, but she's got Adam Bighill's number 4 on.
I do. Honestly, this wasn't my jersey. I kind of got it got passed down to me, which I'm very happy about. Who doesn't love a good jersey? It's authentic.
And who doesn't love Adam Bighill?
Exactly, and that's what I mean.
He's a great ambassador. He played for the Bombers
amazing.
For 7 years.
He was a I know he's not from here, but he felt like a hometown kind of guy. And I know he's currently on the Calgary practice roster right now. And I think he read somewhere that he was aiming to try and play against Winnipeg when the Stamps come to Winnipeg on the 18th, July 18th.
So not tonight.
Not tonight, but I think he's aiming here for 2 weeks to try and make a little bit of a homecoming. So
we'll have to see. Even with him on the sidelines, I suspect there's going to be a lot of big smiles tonight. The Bombers, a lot of the individual players, just happy to see him. I know he struggled with injury. He had been quoted saying, he understood why the Bombers, let him go. But nice if he's going to be back on the field. He was just, he really was a good ambassador when he played for the Bombers.
He really was. So I'm happy to wear this jersey. I'm happy to rep the number 4. So I don't know if there's a Big Hill family member out there listening. I'm happy to rep Adam Bighill's jersey.
But we hope his current team loses tonight. Sorry.
Go Blue.
All right. Thanks, Sierra. Let's talk about the transit system here. You've been writing to us, and we're going to continue asking you what you think of it, and we will invite your calls as well, because this just just went into change. This big change just went into effect on Sunday, and Winnipeggers so far with mixed opinions about it. Winnipeg Transit, just to remind us here, says it is the biggest change that it's ever gone through in terms of redeveloping the system. Some people, though, wish they'd left it alone, including this commuter who CBC's Jim Agapito spoke to at a bus stop yesterday in front of City Hall.
They should have just left the transit system the way it was, because I knew what time I had to leave, what buses I caught that took me to go volunteer at Harvest. And the way they got it set up now, they think it's stupid. They should have just left the whole thing the way it was.
So there's lots of emotions, obviously. There's also a period of adjustment here. But then there are some deeper concerns that maybe there are some things that are just not going to work, that the city's going to have to revisit. Jim spoke to more than just that gentleman as he was asking people how they're feeling after the first few days of the system being in place, including Douglas, who he spoke with at Main Street and Pioneer.
I understand you got to revamp things. There's an overcrowding of buses at certain bus stops. It's plugging up traffic. Understandable. Seems like we revamped the entire city for this. It's been more challenging. I'm carrying groceries the other day. I'm walking a few blocks, catching a bus going down Notre Dame like I used to. It turns down McPhillips now. I can't go all the way down Notre Dame kind of thing. It'll certainly take a while to get used to.
Your commute home, is it longer for you now with the new changes? Is it shorter? What would you say?
Well, as I'm still re-navigating at this point, yeah, it's certainly taking me 4 hours the other day. We're getting used to the new buses, new numbers on the buses and stuff. Yeah, it's certainly going to take a bit. But it's kind of funny. The other day I was asking drivers to help me, and they said, I don't know. You know what? I understand that because nobody knows, right? They don't even know. So at this point, the drivers don't even know. They can't tell you. Like every other driver knew where number 16 went before, right? Now these drivers say, well, they're still figuring it out too, right?
My name is Mary Littman.
How has it then changed your commute?
It's not bad, but you got to get to know the change.
There are transit stewards. They are people wearing...
Yeah, I know. I talked to them when I went to the clinic on hospital. I had to transfer buses. So that helped a little bit. If you don't find those people there, then what are you going to do? Ask somebody? They don't know. The bus I took, 43, this driver didn't know nothing.
Do you think the system will be a positive change for the way you commute?
I don't know. I don't know nothing. You think I'm old? I could die tomorrow and that. But for the people, the youngest people, they could learn faster than me. No, it's not helping me any. But I try my very best to learn how to catch the bus. That's the only thing.
Theodore Berryman. Today I had a better experience with the 28. Like I took that bus from Sargent Arlington. I took it to Stafford in Corydon, and I got to the park in 30 minutes. That's the fastest I've ever been to the park. So I was impressed with that.
So you think it's been an improvement then?
That's a hell of an improvement. Before I had used to come downtown, transfer to a Corydon. Now I don't even have to transfer. And the same with Garden City. I used to transfer to an 18. I don't have to anymore. So either way I go to Garden City and instead of going a lot, the 28 is the only bus I need. Perfect.
What would you like to see then to improve the system? What would you like transit to do?
We'll just space the buses out, 15 minutes, 20. When you see 3 in a row, it kind of drives you crazy. So just space them out, sit, have a coffee or something. But you should never see 3 buses in a row.
My name is Jesse Dizon.
Okay, how's your experience been with the new transit system a couple of days after the changes?
So a couple of days after the changes, so far it's pretty great. I'm arriving on time in my destination. It's just that we have to take 3 buses now instead of 2. So,
has it added any more time, or is it made it faster?
It doesn't really add a significant amount of time. It's just I'm still arriving on time in my destination. So going home, it's just that one takes more time instead of taking usually 1 hour. It's just 1 hour and 20 minutes now.
So a real mixed bag there. A lot of people saying more transfers, bit of a further walk. Other people saying it's great, as you heard talking to Jim there. Is it adding time to your commute or not? What are your concerns about it? How's it been for you? CBC's Jim Agapito was out yesterday talking to people in Winnipeg about their experiences on the new transit system. We have a lot of comments coming in. I'm going to get through a few more of them here on Facebook. You've been writing to the show. Alexander Chessier saying it's horrible. All regular buses stop going to my area after 7. So I can't go out or get home in the evening. And we've actually heard this from a couple of different people in different neighborhoods, that there's challenges with, in their neighborhoods and trying to get places after dark, so to speak. He writes, I also need to take 2 buses to get to work and walk 3 times my old distance. Patricia Dare says, I spoke to a bus driver. He said he had a lot of complaints, but not about him. They don't blame him, but transit. So people are quick to complain here. Toby McRae saying, instead of 1 bus home, I now take 4. So I'm taking an Uber instead. Harry Joseph Wolbert writing in, these changes were made, in Harry's opinion, here he's writing, these changes were made by people who don't use public transit. In my opinion, as he writes, the changes were very poorly thought out. Over 1,200 bus stops, 20% were eliminated, and bus routes were changed beyond recognition. Some on City Council want to build additional rapid transit routes, but how many billions is that going to cost taxpayers? The North End Water Treatment Plant, Harry writes, that's under construction is already over budget. And the mayor and the council need to stop flushing tax dollars down the toilet. Reducing the number of bus stops is one thing. Completely changing almost every bus route was totally unnecessary. So Harry with a strong opinion about things not working. And finally, Michael S. Keenan writing in here, for me, it's a mixed bag, he says. Slightly more inconvenient to get to work, but more convenient for getting some other places, especially malls for what that's worth. I tend to use my bike, Michael says, to go to work anyway, so maybe a slight improvement overall. But it could be a wash because I don't go to the mall much, he says. But he also writes that one of his friends who takes the bus daily says the changes are a big improvement to his commute. Ultimately, though, he says we can't properly assess it until some time has passed and we can gather actual statistics, which is true. But we still are trying to hear how it's going here in the early days for you and where there might be pockets of specific concern, especially if you're trying to get to or from a workplace, if it's changed your habits. Someone just wrote to us, as I read there, and said they're going to Uber already. Or if there's a concern, maybe at certain hours of the day in your specific neighborhood in Winnipeg. So let us know. You can reach out to CBC at 788-3205. Right now it is 13 minutes to 8 o'clock. And coming up after 8 on the program, a really special story, a cultural healing village for vulnerable Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit and trans persons has opened along the shores of Lake Winnipeg in a beautiful ceremony. CBC was there when this happened, and we'll take you there after 8.
It was over 30 years ago that Clifford Olson first called me. Secret phone calls from Canada's most notorious serial killer.
But I couldn't stop myself.
Now it's time to unearth the tapes because I believe there are still answers to be found. I'm Arlene Bynon from CBC's Uncover, Calls from a Killer. Available now on CBC Listen and wherever you get your podcasts.
Breaking news happens anywhere, anytime.
Police have warned the protesters repeatedly, get back.
CBC News brings the story to you as it happens.
Hundreds of wildfires are burning.
Be the first to know what's going on and what that means for you and for Canadians.
This situation has changed very quickly.
Helping make sense of the world when it matters most. Stay in the know. CBC News.
Well, a warning that our next feature interview deals with the details of a sexual assault, and it may be distressing to some listeners. It also includes very, very strong sexual language. This happens a few minutes into the interview. It only lasts for about 10 seconds. But be advised if you have little ones who are near the radio this morning. This is, however, really at the heart of it, a story of one woman's reality and resilience over a year and a half, spanning from when the incident happened to when the perpetrator was sentenced last month. We're withholding her identity because she's the victim of sexual assault. Her story begins in 2023 when she was in a session with her personal trainer at Good Life Fitness on Regent Avenue. When he proposed sexual activity, she declined multiple times, but then he locked the door. Joseph Patrick Luna was charged with sexual assault, forcible confinement, and overcoming resistance by attempting to choke, suffocate, or strangle another person. In June, as I mentioned last month, he was sentenced to 18 months in jail, 2 years of probation, and 20 years of needing to register as a sex offender. Today, an interview with the woman who was assaulted. She reached out to CBC and sees value in sharing her story. She's 31 years old now. She's a mom. And as I said, hers is a story of resilience. Here's part one.
Thanks for having me.
Why did you want to share your story?
It's just the whole process. I learned that it's not talked about a lot, and if it is spoken about, it's not believed. No one takes you seriously. And it's one of those things where, the victim's almost kind of shunned or, you brought this upon yourself type of thing. And, being told all throughout the whole process, these cases hardly ever, turn out in your favor.
You want to be here to represent them.
Absolutely.
Where were those messages coming through your story? It almost sounds like there was a warning. These cases don't often turn out in your favor, or the people that wouldn't be believing you. Where were those messages coming from?
A lot of it came from victim services, but I mean, they were just being super transparent. They were just immensely supportive. They got me through it. I didn't want anything sugar-coated. You need to kind of tell me the way things are. So for her to kind of be we're going to hold on, we're going to fight, but they hardly ever turn out.
What about what you said about people not believing you?
I guess it's more also an internal thing and what you've seen in the past. And, a lot of females don't have that courage to come forward because I didn't even think I had that ability to come forward because these sexual assaults, they just really become a he said, she said. So I guess after a while when I kind of got a clear mindset, I knew I wasn't going to get my confession. I knew I wasn't going to get him to admit anything unless I kind of put it forward to him to be what you did was wrong. But just with the long process and, every time hearing the Crown and the defense and, them meeting to be well, he's still pleading not guilty.
Because that's how it started at first.
Yeah.
Had you been through the court system with anything in your life before?
Never.
I want to go through, with your permission that we got off air, a little bit of what happened to you. But this was someone that was your trainer for a year,
yeah.
Right? And so what happened? It was December 2023.
I remember the morning of. So I got there when I would normally get there. I walked on the treadmill. We did stretches in the area. He basically had said, we'll finish this up, we'll take measurements, we'll just take it easy, and then we'll go into the recovery room. Then you just, you go to the massage chair, or if, muscles were tight, he would
go and give you a massage to work it out, all above board training
Absolutely.
Stuff. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
And so, thought nothing of it because, we're going on almost a year. I trusted him. And before he became my trainer, him and I were friends and, he needed clients. So I did it as a favor.
So you had known him a little bit before in a friendship capacity?
Yeah.
Okay.
We finished up stretching. He brought me to the consultation room. Again, nothing was out of the ordinary. And he just flat out asked, he's just can I finger you for a few minutes? And I kind of looked at him and I was no. So he's no, really, I haven't had, sex with my girlfriend for a while and, I'm just wondering if I can finger you. And I'm no, I know your girlfriend. I respect her as a person. I'm not going to do that. That's not who I am. And again, he asked. So not really, I guess, high alert thinking, just kind of thinking, where the hell is this coming from? He had gotten up, locked the door because it wasn't locked before. It was just closed. And he approached me because I was on a chair and he pushed me up against the corner, started choking me. And I could feel his lips around my neck. And that's when he started, rubbing my vaginal area and just whispering, gasping for air and just, holding onto the chair to try to feel grounded somehow. And what felt like forever. Yeah. He finally just kind of let go, sat down, and I was shocked. I was numb. What the hell had just happened? So from there, he was well, let's go to the recovery room. I guess just trying to shake it off or act like nothing had happened. So immediately, again, still not processing it, I had texted my best friend and I'm just like, so, this just happened. And then that happened. So we got into the recovery room and he started making small talk, whatever updates with his dog or friends or coworkers and colleagues. And then not wanting to make a big scene because didn't know how that was going to play out. He ended up asking me to book, I'll say 4 more sessions. And he said, okay, like my other clients here, have a great day.
He said nothing to you after this?
No.
And your word was shocked. So you're kind of...
Yeah.
Did you say anything to him at that point?
No, it was basically just do what I can to get away from him in the most calmest way possible. Mm-hmm. After he had left, I waited about 10 minutes because I kind of figured I didn't want to have to walk out and see him again. So in the meantime, like my friend had responded to be like, you need to get out there and you need to get out now. You're supposed to be able to trust him.
When did you decide that you were going to actually pursue this? First of all, nothing has happened to me like this, so I asked this with genuine, open honesty. That shock, I imagine, would last for some time, like it would be...
It lasted for a few hours. I had actually ended up calling my cousin who lives in Edmonton, and I just remember my first question being to her was, why do bad things have to happen? And she's just like, do you want to tell me something? And I basically said, I don't know how to label it just yet. I said, I can only tell you what happened. So I told her, and her response right away was, holy shit, you got sexually assaulted. And it still wasn't clicking for me just yet. That's when it started. She's like, you need to go say, she's like, you need to call, you need to put in that report. And I was just like, no, like nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to get anywhere. Like, it's going to, be blamed on me. And like, no one's going to believe me. After kind of going back and forth for a bit, she's just like, you know what, then just message him first. So I did. It was basically like, I didn't feel safe. I don't appreciate what you did. The fact that you had asked me 3 times and you were rejected. You still went upon yourself to break that trust, to take advantage of me, and basically have the confidence to feel like nothing was going to come back and bite you in the ass.
What did he text back?
He took accountability. Oh yeah, I admit I did it. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was wrong. And then he ended up passing on his manager's number, which I knew who the manager was, offering to refund the session and just kind of keep it in-house that way. And I guess that was his way of trying to do damage control and just make it water under the bridge.
When did you decide you were going to go forward and press charges?
That same night. Yeah, it's what really did it for me was my brother had walked in and I told him, and he's like, you got to do it. You need to go forward with this.
After 8 o'clock, in part 2 of our feature interview, what it was like to go forward with this case and why she says she's grateful for how police handled what happened. That is coming up in part 2 with my interview with that Manitoba woman who was the victim of a sexual assault at her gym in 2023. Sentencing happened last month. A point of clarification, I said press charges. That's incorrect. She filed a complaint with the police that led to the man being charged and later convicted in court. If you're in crisis, Clinic Sexual Assault Crisis Line is toll-free, 1-888-292-7565. Here's Heather with headlines.
Winnipeg community centres could get an extra $250,000 a year to help hire staff. The city proposes an annual wage subsidy, which it hopes will boost flagging volunteer numbers. Nearly half as many people are offering their time to community centres now compared to the before the COVID pandemic. We're going to hear more about this plan coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Heat warning today across southern Manitoba. We're going to be a high of 33 in Winnipeg with Humidex. It'll feel like 36. If you have a problem on your commute, 788-3093, and stay with us here on 89.3 FM. World Report next.
Today on Q.
The only thing I love in life as much as lunch or dinner is breakfast. Phil Rosenthal created one of the most successful sitcoms of all time, Everybody Loves Raymond. But after it ended, it took him nearly a decade to launch his next dream project, his food and travel show that's now in its 8th season. Phil Rosenthal will be here to tell you all about it.
Q with Tom Power, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Duncan McHugh. Big promises have been made to remove many interprovincial trade barriers, but some businesses say the patchwork of solutions that's being implemented could create new challenges. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. After months under new U.S. tariffs, the latest trade numbers from Statistics Canada are out. Exports to the United States fell for the 4th consecutive month in May. But exports to other countries hit a record high, 1.1% overall. CBC's senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong has the details.
There's an awful lot of distortion in the trade numbers these days. Canadian businesses have been scrambling to navigate the tariffs and the uncertainty and the ever-changing landscape that's come with all of this. But what these trade numbers for May show us is that they've been managing that pretty well. Exports are down to the U.S., but total exports to the world, those are up 1.1%. Last year, nearly 76% of exports went to the United States. Now that's fallen to 68%, but exports to countries other than the United States, that's reached another record high. Canadian businesses ship more gold to the UK, more crude oil to Singapore, and more aluminum and pharmaceutical products to Italy. Now, none of this means that Canadian businesses aren't suffering. Obviously they are, especially in the steel and auto sectors. But Canadian businesses and Canadian industries are showing yet again just how nimble they can be in a crisis. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
In Washington, it has been a sleepless night for U.S. lawmakers. House representatives debated U.S. President Donald Trump's signature tax and spending bill all through the night.
So many Americans all across this country went to bed in fear and are now waking up in horror because Republicans are trying to jam this one big ugly bill down the throats.
That is House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries after about 4 hours speaking on the House floor. He leads the Democratic Party, and he has been talking about how he says the bill will affect American people's lives since about 5 a.m. Eastern Time. The filibuster is a delay tactic. The vote will take place only once he is finished. Our Katie Nicholson is following this story from Washington. Katie, what is the latest?
It's been another marathon session on Capitol Hill, but Speaker Mike Johnson may be on the brink of fulfilling a very tall order. The small group of Republican holdouts, there were 5 representatives. Speaker Johnson spoke briefly with Fox's Sean Hannity last night.
We were tying up some loose ends. It's taken a little while to go through the changes, to have everybody fully process that, and that's part of the process. So no huge pressure here. We're allowing these conversations to continue.
Now, through the night, the president expressed his frustration on social media, posting, "What are the Republicans waiting for? What are you trying to prove?" Multiple question marks in all caps. MAGA is not happy and it's costing you votes. So Johnson appears to believe that now they have the votes. But first, there is procedure. There was debate and the House leaders get to speak. And now House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, he started speaking around 5 a.m. He may take a long time to delay the actual vote.
This bill is supposed to continue the Trump administration's tax cuts for the most wealthy from 2017, increased funds for border security and the Pentagon, but it's also being heavily criticized for what it cuts. Tell us more.
It does take deep bites from the social safety net, in addition to driving up the national debt by an estimated $3.3 trillion over 10 years. And that is a message House Democrats have been hammering over the last 24 hours on the floor. Here's Hakeem Jeffries again.
This disgusting abomination, the GOP tax scam that guts Medicaid, rips food from the mouths of children, seniors, and veterans, and rewards billionaires with massive tax breaks.
Now, if this bill clears the last hurdle, it moves to Donald Trump's desk. He will get to sign it into law, as he wanted, by July 4th. But many in his party may soon face a reckoning. There are estimates 12 million Americans or more may lose health coverage, and this could impact rural health care, issues that may haunt Republicans in the midterms.
Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Katie Nicholson reporting from Washington. The UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories is calling for an arms embargo on Israel. In a speech to the Human Rights Council, Francesca Albanese also urged leaders to cut off trade with Israel.
There is a prima facie responsibility on every state and corporate entity to completely abstain from or end their relationship with this economy of the occupation, especially as it has transformed into an economy of genocide.
Albanese presented her latest report to the council in Geneva. It named more than 60 companies she says support Israeli settlements and military actions in Gaza. She says they should face legal consequences for violating international law. Police in Spain say Premier League soccer player Diogo Jota has died in a car accident. He and his brother were both found dead after their vehicle went off the road near Zamora in western Spain. No other vehicles were involved in the accident. Police are investigating the cause. Jota played for Liverpool FC. He also helped Portugal's national team win the Nations League last month. Diogo Jota was 28 years old. The mother of a 3-year-old girl who disappeared near the Ontario-Quebec border appears in court today. The child was found alive. The mother has been charged with child abandonment, and today is her bail hearing. Jayla Bernstein has that story.
Just over 2 weeks ago, a massive multi-day search for a missing girl ended with the best case scenario. The 3-year-old girl found alive in a ditch. She was dehydrated and alone, but okay. CBC is not naming the girl or her mother because of a publication ban by the courts. Today, the mother is expected to appear in court for her bail hearing. She's charged with child abandonment. According to Radio Canada sources, she seemed confused during police questioning. Her lawyer says she's not well, though for now they've not requested a psychological evaluation. This all started when the mother ran panicked into a souvenir store on a highway near the Quebec-Ontario border. Employees said she was saying she'd lost her 3-year-old daughter and couldn't remember what happened. In eastern Ontario, officers used a drone to spot the girl alive. She was along a highway near farmland about 50 kilometers from the Quebec border. She told police she was waiting there for her mommy. Officers said they believe she spent the entire time outside on her own. If her mother is found guilty of child abandonment, she could face a maximum sentence of 5 years. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Montreal.
Hundreds of flights in and out of France are canceled today and tomorrow. French air traffic controllers are walking off the job for a 2-day strike. Union officials say they're standing up against persistent understaffing, outdated equipment, and a toxic management culture. France's Civil Aviation Agency has asked airlines to cut 25% of flights coming through Paris airports today. And tomorrow they have to cut the number of flights in and out of the capital in half. People in Yukon are getting some answers about exactly what happened at the Eagle Gold Mine last year. There was a landslide. It was catastrophic for the environment and forced the facility to close. Now an independent review has released its report. The CBC's Gabrielle Plonka has details.
The Eagle Gold Mine near Mayo, Yukon had a lot of issues. Its heap leaching facility, which uses cyanide to extract gold, wasn't draining properly. The mining company was using poor quality ore and had a malfunctioning separator. All of those problems and others contributed to the catastrophic failure in June 2024, according to newly published findings from an independent review board. John Stryker is the Yukon's Minister of Mines. He says his government is looking at the findings.
Public confidence is lost quickly and built slowly. So I think that we have to continue that hard work.
There are more than 50 recommendations, some of them geared towards government and others towards the mining industry.
That it isn't just the Yukon that's looking at this, right? The whole mining industry is looking at it, trying to understand. Everyone wants to make sure mining is done safely.
The Eagle Mine is currently in receivership and up for sale. Don Roberts leads a local citizen advocacy group. It circulated a petition earlier this year to ban open-pad heap leaching in the Yukon. He says right now, public opinion on mining is low, and it's going to take a major industry shift to change that.
They've got to have everything in place, and even the financial burden has to be in place as well. Otherwise, we're going to get stuck with other mines, which are even going to be larger.
Robert says he's tired of seeing taxpayers and the environment pay for failed mines. Gabrielle Planca, CBC News, Whitehorse.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. You're on CBC. We're live downtown in Winnipeg, where it is hot and going to get hotter. Abby's going to talk about heat warnings in a moment and what exactly is going on with this summery weather today. So stay tuned for that. This half hour, our stories are all about women's strength. We're going to hear how along the shores of Lake Winnipeg, the Clan Mothers Healing Village is celebrating a decade-long dream come true as their cultural healing village recently opened. So we're going to take you there. Also, we have part 2 of a feature interview this morning with a woman who reached out to CBC and wanted to share her experience to help others. She said she felt like giving up after hearing how many cases like hers end up in a he said, she said situation. Why a Manitoba victim of sexual assault did pursue justice and what lessons she learned along the way to seeing the man that hurt her sentenced last month to jail time. Stay tuned. We'll have that for you as well. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells, who's here with the day's news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the chief of the Northern Manitoba First Nation says he was disgusted to see hundreds of thousands of dollars paid out to a former Manitoba Hydro CEO. Earlier this week, the Crown Corporation's annual pay disclosures showed Jay Graywall received $880,000 last year, despite being dismissed just 6 weeks into the year. Pimachikamak Chief David Monias says that is a slap in the face for Manitoba Hydro to honor Graywall's contract while his First Nation has an unfulfilled agreement with the utility. Winnipeggers won't vote in a civic election for 15 months. And when they do, one name they will see on the ballot for mayor is that of Scott Gillingham. The mayor confirms he plans to run for a second term in 2026. We'll hear more in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Welcome.
To the hot weather now with Abby.
Yes, it's going to be hot and sticky across board. We have that heat warning in effect across southern Manitoba. If you're checking out the map, you'll see we're already getting to that range of 18s and 19s. Temperatures will be climbing into mid-30s today. And with the humidity factored in, it's going to feel close to 40 degrees. And this heat is going to continue through Friday with cooler air arriving around the Saturday period. Also, we have smoke affecting air quality in Flin Flon. Right now, Winnipeg, 19 degrees, sunshine, and heat will push the high to 33 today. There's a chance of showers later tonight, but tomorrow still stays hot with highs close to 32.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
We're in for a couple hot ones, as Abby's saying. Let's get into the commute with Sierra Sanders.
Good morning. A couple of incidents to report. Northbound Lajmodiere approaching Headmaster Road. There's been an incident there. Emergency crews are blocking the northbound curb lane and middle lane, so keep left to pass there, As well, there's been an incident at Fermor at St. Mary's. Emergency crews are blocking the northbound lane there, so keep left to pass. So a couple of incidents happening right there. I'll keep an eye on those and update them as those updates come in. There's still some time left in the show, so if there's anything out there slowing you down or there's other incidents that you're seeing, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, 204-788-3093.
Well, a warning, our first interview this half hour deals with the details of a sexual assault and may be distressing to some listeners. It also includes very strong sexual language in a moment here in the intro clip to set up this interview. So be advised if you have little ones near the radio right now. This is, as I've been saying, though, a story about a woman's resilience and reality. To part 2 now of my interview with this Manitoba woman who approached CBC to share. She was sexually assaulted by the trainer at her gym in 2023. We're not naming her because she's a victim of sexual assault. But in that year, she was in a session at Good Life Fitness on Regent Avenue. Her trainer proposed sexual activity. She declined multiple times. But then
He had gotten up, locked the door because it wasn't locked before, it was just closed, and he approached me because I was on a chair, and he pushed me up against the corner, started choking me, and I could feel his lips around my neck, and that's when he started, rubbing my vaginal area and just whispering, like gasping for air and just, holding onto the chair to try to feel grounded somehow, and like what felt like forever. Yeah. He finally just kind of let go, sat down, and I was shocked. I was numb. Like, what the hell had just happened?
Joseph Patrick Luna was charged last month with sexual assault, forcible confinement, and overcoming resistance by attempting to choke, suffocate, or strangle another person. In June, he was sentenced to 18 months in jail, 2 years of probation, and 20 years of needing to register as a sex offender. The woman who was assaulted shared earlier in the show part of what we just heard, what happened to her. Also, how difficult it was to decide to pursue justice, but also why she wants others to hear what it's like to go through something like this. She's 31 years old. She's a mom. Here now is part 2 of our interview. This was your first time in the justice system.
Yeah.
We know how it turned out, but I wonder a bit about your journey. And some of the things are positive as well that you feel are important to share going through the justice system. But what was difficult about it?
The wait. That was the biggest struggle, biggest, I guess, disappointment. It felt like it was dragged through. It's like, is this ever going to end? When do I finally get to heal? When do I finally get to move on? And
I understand there was some focus on how his life would be ruined.
Yeah. I that still baffles me. It does. His argument was, this was my first offense. I said I was sorry. I shouldn't have to register as a sex offender. And he wanted to walk free.
What was it like for you? At first he was pleading not guilty, rather.
Oh, I was pissed. Like, especially when everyone had, the evidence, the text messages, the testimonies, everything was there. And he went so long still saying, I didn't do it. I'm not guilty.
When he finally did plead guilty, what did that feel like for you?
I didn't feel great then. I think I was just even more exhausted to be like, better late than never, but why did you have to take this long?
Did you have moments where you felt like walking away and giving up on it?
Every single time I waited, I wanted to call my worker at Victim Services to be like, you know what? I can't do this. Between, the therapy, feeling like I'm running in circles, the medications I now rely on just to emotionally get through the day.
As you were working your way through. I was going to ask how coping with the stress of all this has changed your life. You've alluded to that a little bit.
I was scared to be around anybody. If anybody walked up to me, I, immediately was anxious to where I started crying, thinking I'm immediately in danger, even though I know I wasn't. But, it's just that reaction. I didn't have the energy. I couldn't be there for my kid when he needed me. I stopped going into work. I could barely do it.
You were changed.
Big time.
You were encouraged to give, this is an interesting part of your case, you were encouraged to give a victim impact statement, but also to let people know that you're an Indigenous woman. Can you share with us, why that was, what that exchange was like when they were encouraging you to do that?
That was a very interesting part for me, because even with the question that came with, are you Indigenous? This is, to kind of help you in our case because you're more at risk, and not really thinking anything out of the time. I was just like, well, yeah, I'm Indigenous, status. So as they're kind of like reading it through, and then even when he finally got sentenced, to have him say, you harmed an Indigenous woman, kind of made me wonder, if I wasn't Indigenous, would this outcome have turned out the way it did? Like, would it have made a difference? Would he have been locked up?
What was positive about your experience with not just the court, but then with the police, even in the early stages and such?
They were so kind right from the beginning. At every stage, even giving that initial statement when they came to my house, I was asked, because they were 2 males, if I wanted to deal with a female instead. And I said no, because what he did doesn't mean that other males are like that. He didn't get to label them. He didn't get to set that, because that would not have been fair to anyone else.
The Crown, I think you were sharing with me, said that, what ended up happening because he was sentenced in such a way was notable.
Yeah. They had said they rarely see, the verdict work out in our favor to see, justice to him being locked away, because apparently a lot of times when the perpetrator does sexually assault someone, they just get house arrest.
How are you stronger now?
I am stronger now from talking. That's a big part of it. I used to not say a whole lot. This has caused me to talk because I needed to start therapy. It's helped me know that I'm not alone, that I matter, and I'm valued. Everyone was there for me, like my mom, a lot of the females in my life. Even my brother was absolutely amazing and supportive. They tell me I'm the brave one, but I know I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for all of them. Because I can't count how many times I wanted to give up. I wanted to say, I'm done. But they kept me going.
What do you hope other women listening today take from this?
This is daunting. Like, it's absolutely terrifying. And it's not an easy, simple, quick process. Come forward. Speak up. Because it will be worth it in the end. And it does get better. Just don't be afraid to open up or let that, village in, because they're there to help you.
What supports that are accessible in Manitoba were helpful to you?
Like, I got to call my worker at Victim Services pretty much whenever I needed it. And I mean, she was always there to kind of lend an ear, and therapy was a big part of it too. And just the process and just how they helped me through and the resources available. Like, to me, that was amazing. I never even knew any of that existed. But then again, I had no idea what this was about and that I'd ever have to deal with something like this. I felt the absolute best when I knew he wasn't going to walk out those front doors. I felt like as happy as I could have been before this all happened. I even see a difference now with how I interact with my kid. And, through the whole thing of it all, I did the bare minimum. I made his lunch. I made sure he had everything, all the necessary things. But in terms of like interaction, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. And that's where my mom kind of stepped up for me. And I felt bad. I felt guilty. I still do. But now I can sit there, I can play around with him. I can joke. I can interact. And I feel that connection again. And I know he does too.
Was there a point where you thought that might not return?
Oh, absolutely. Because he would always ask for my mom. Grandma, I want grandma. And now it's slowly kind of, mom, mom, mom. And I miss that. I love that.
Coming back.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing in this public way and seeing value in it for all of the people that are gonna find value in it, which will be a lot of people. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was my conversation with a Manitoba woman who was the victim of a sexual assault at her gym in 2023. The sentence was passed last month. Her perpetrator was sentenced and he is behind bars. She approached CBC to share her story to help others. And if you've been listening and if you have been or know someone who has been through a sexual assault, there is the Clinic Sexual Assault Crisis Line. It is toll free. You can call 1-888-292-7565.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes our world, staying on top of stories around the globe, and connected close to home. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
Well, we got some information about your morning commute. Christina just called and said that lights are flashing now in all directions at Abenogi-Mi'kmaq and St. Mary's. So busy intersection, and now it's in a four-way stop position with the lights here. So you're already seeing backups through that area. That's what's going on at Abenogi-Mi'kmaq and St. Mary's. 788-3093. Thanks for calling the commuter line here on CBC, Christina. 19 degrees in Winnipeg, calm, and in terms of the winds, the high today 33 and a heat warning in effect for most of southern Manitoba. Well, quite a half hour here, right? We've just heard part 2 of that intense interview with the woman who wanted to share her journey. And next on the show, after nearly 10 years of development and fundraising, the Clan Mothers Healing Village recently opened. By following traditional Indigenous values and cultural teaching, the village provides a safe space and healing for vulnerable and sexually exploited women, girls, and two-spirit and transgender persons. The village has been the dream of Elder May Louise Campbell and her daughter Jamie Goulet, who have both worked to have this vision come true for many years, as I mentioned. CBC's Sid Sundance Horshig traveled to their opening ceremony to hear more.
It's a long, long time dream coming true, actually happening. And just this morning when I got up and I'm looking at the buildings and all the work that the women were doing together, the staff, I said, oh my God, I'm actually seeing it and I'm feeling it.
The Clan Mothers Healing Village has been in development for nearly a decade.
Great-granddaughter, my granddaughter.
Last week, it finally opened. The new Healing Village is located in Bel Air on the shores of Lake Winnipeg. It's a place of refuge for sexually exploited and vulnerable women, girls, and two-spirited people.
Our focus is on our most vulnerable, those who do not get opportunities and those who need opportunities. It's not just our communities that are desperate for us, the whole world needs matriarchal knowledge back.
During our visit, we talked with the women who have gone through the program in the Winnipeg location.
My cousin actually reached out to me and told me about this program, and I felt like I was sober, but I was like stuck still. Like I wasn't doing any part of the healing that needed to be done within myself.
I came into this program after recently starting a journey of recovery from a meth addiction and was kind of sitting a little stagnant.
Traditional Indigenous values are at the heart of the village's teachings. The hope is to reconnect clients with their culture.
I love it. It's beautiful.
The goal is to provide a safe and land-based space for programming to help the women on their road to healing.
We're recreating a village that our ancestors had. The governance system was women. And now we've got this village going in a modern context.
They're just very loving and caring and very, very supportive, which I've never had before in my life. So it was a little uncomfortable at first, but after a while, I just can't get enough of it now.
It's actually really helped me a lot discover who I am truly and help me feel at peace with a lot of things easier.
Many of the women who have gone through the program have turned around and built the structures that we see today. The project cost approximately $9 million. It was funded by the provincial and federal governments, several charities, and private donors.
It finally hit me today, like walking into the elders' cabin and like seeing all the furniture and everybody just communicating and having a good time in there. I can't explain the feeling, but it's like I was sitting there and I'm like, oh, we built that from like the foundation up to the finish. And it's just a phenomenal feeling because of what we come from.
And I never doubted in my mind that this vision would not come to pass, but my only desire was that it would happen in my time.
The Elders Lodge, Ceremony Harbor, and Education Center are already in place. Future plans include more healing-based structures like a bathhouse and workshops for the women.
I know that they will get the same opportunity and same love and the same care and the same support that we've been getting through them as well. And yeah, and that they just start their healing journey and get back involved in their culture because that's very, very important.
We'll never close the door on them. They can come back anytime. That's what families should be like. That's what communities should be like. This will be a spiritual home always for our people.
Sid Sundance Horshig, CBC News from Bel Air.
Beautiful, hey? Thanks for that report, Sid. That's the Clan Mothers Healing Village. Sid was at the opening ceremony recently. You can go to their website, by the way, clanmothers.ca, to learn more. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for being with us in the show this morning. We've got one more newscast to go before we're done with our local portion of the morning here. But I want to mention Radio Noon because that's your next local show up between noon and 1. And their call-in between 12:30 and 1 today is about those credit card payments. More Canadians are missing the credit card payments, even minimum payments. They're also using credit cards to pay for day-to-day items as these struggling financial times continue in our country. So questions about credit and debt in the 12:30 call-in conversation. Personal tax and finance author is the guest today with guest host Chloe Friesen. So that's between 12:30 and 1 on the Radio Noon call-in. Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's 19 degrees. Expecting a mix of sun and cloud, and it is going to be a hot, windy one, a high of 33, the humidex 36 today. And that withering heat and humidity across southern Manitoba has prompted a heat warning. Today and tomorrow, Environment Canada says, are expected to be the most humid days of summer so far. A hot, humid air mass is bringing highs in the low 30s and humidex between 35 and 40 by late this afternoon. Relief is expected by Saturday as a cold front moves in. Canada's Air Traffic Control Service says some airports across this country could see delays after receiving early morning bomb threats. NAV Canada says the threats impacted a number of airports, including Winnipeg's Richardson International, describing action being taken as a temporary ground stop. CBC's Mark Carcassol has details.
NAV Canada as well, who sent us a statement, who confirmed to us, quote, early this morning, NAV Canada was made aware of bomb threats. They use that wording as opposed to security threats or security situation. Bomb threats affecting facilities in Ottawa, Montreal, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Calgary, and Vancouver. Employees at impacted locations are safe, and a temporary ground stop has been implemented at the affected airports. We are collaborating with authorities to address the situation and ensure the safety of all personnel and passengers. Travelers are advised to check directly with their airline for the latest updates as delays may occur. Again, looking at the boards online at airports' various websites, it does seem at this point that there is a minimal impact, but you will still want to call ahead anyway to your airline and check to make sure.
CBC's Mark Carcassol. Now, the Winnipeg Airports Authority tells CBC it did halt flights early this morning, but a spokesperson isn't expecting further flight delays today. Carolee Falloon says they were advised by NAV Canada about a bomb threat and instituted that temporary ground stop. She says the issue was resolved by 7:20 this morning and flights are returning to normal. Falloon suggests if you're flying today, check ahead with your airline. Winnipeg community centres could get an extra $250,000 a year to help hire staff. The city proposes an annual wage subsidy, which it hopes will boost flagging volunteer numbers. Nearly half as many people are offering their time to community centres now compared to before the COVID pandemic. Laura Maisman is the head of the General Council of Winnipeg Community Centres. She says the lack of volunteers means centres have to charge fees in order to hire staff to run programming.
It would be ideal to have programming staff and have those doors open, have community have access to the facility without having to pay fees to attend the facility.
The grant proposal is part of a new 20-year action plan to reform the city's community centres. That plan will be presented to Executive Policy Committee next week. The chief of a Northern Manitoba First Nation says he was disgusted to see hundreds of thousands of dollars paid out to a former Manitoba Hydro CEO. Earlier this week, the Crown Corporation's annual pay disclosures showed Jay Graywall received $880,000 last year, even though she was dismissed just 6 weeks into the year. A business expert tells CBC the large payout suggests the utility bought out the rest of her contract. Pimachikamak Chief David Monia says it's a big slap in the face for Manitoba Hydro to honour Greywall's contract, while his First Nation has an unfulfilled agreement with the company.
We were just appalled by it and, just deeply offended by it. I mean, how can you pay out $880,000 to take Greywall for just 6 weeks of work?
Monia says Greywall largely refused to meet with First Nations leaders during her tenure as CEO. He also alleges she breached a signed agreement between Pimachikamak, Manitoba Hydro, and the federal and provincial governments. Winnipeg's next general election is still 15 months away, but Scott Gillingham isn't creating any drama about his re-election plan. Gillingham says he plans to run in 2026 for a second term as mayor of Winnipeg. He hopes to keep a long streak alive. It has been nearly 70 years since anyone defeated an incumbent mayor in this city. The last time that happened was in 1956. You can find more Manitoba news updated. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Also, thanks to others who contributed to the program this morning. Associate producers Jenna Badosso and Sid Sundance Horshig. Current Affairs reporter Jim Agapito. From our news department, Heather Wells and Alana Cole. Our live team this morning, Abby Adeyemi, Brad Lillies, and Sierra Sanders. The senior producer of audio here at CBC Manitoba is Leif Larson. And then also producing with him, Nellie Gonzalez is back with us in unit as well. All right, let's get to a last look at the commute first with Sierra.
Yeah, a couple things developing here in the last half hour of the show. Christina called to let me know lights were flashing in all directions at Abinogi-Meekina at St. Mary's. That's right by St. Vital Centre there. Treat that intersection as a four-way stop and expect delays with that the lights going out and also the construction in the area. And then northbound Lagimodiere approaching Headmaster Road. There was an incident. Emergency crews were blocking northbound curb and middle lane, so keep left to pass there. And I think that's everything for the day. Go Blue.
Couple problems at the end of the show. Hopefully no problems for the Bombers tonight. Oliveira back in the lineup. Exciting. All right, thanks to Sierra. Sierra's repping with her jersey. I'm jealous. I left mine at home.
So jealous.
Right? I know. Me and Abby are always like, oh. Someone always remembers in the team and the rest of us go, oh. At least we have one person remembering for us.
I'll take it.
Yeah, you should. What do you got?
Well, if you attended the game, it's gonna be hot.
Oh, it's in Calgary.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. If you're watching it from your backyard, it's gonna be hot.
It will.
It's gonna be hot. Hot and humid. Hair pushing.
Way to pivot, brother.
It's gonna be pushing all the temperatures close to 35, and the humidity is gonna make you feel close to 40 degrees. So hydrate if you've seen that game at the backyard.
No doubt. It would be good, actually, to watch the game in the backyard. I love that. So, Bombers with a Thursday night game tonight. Enjoy it. Lots of other things going on as well. Be well. Stay safe in the heat out there, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining all of us here on CBC. Talk to you tomorrow.